Well, doesn't it normally do your little like intro?
Well,
Oh, it's just I got a notification.
I do on one page, but not the other. But there it is. We're
Okay,
live.
there it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're good. All right, Anchoragites and social media land. This Dustin Sherman or Sherman Tank, whatever you want to call me, and Sarah Boyer. We finally got together again, and we're on another live stream.
I know, it's been a long time.
It's been a while. So we were both on Felix Rivera's question and answer thing tonight on Zoom, and I think I counted. I think there's 22 of us on there,
That was a
and
good amount of people.
yeah, it was a good turnout for our side, I think. And he was kind of left in the wind on his own. I kind of thought that was actually kind of nice. And we seen how he acted once he got pushed a little bit. Rosa pushed pretty hard on him, and he ended up cutting her off.
Well, he cut Dustin Darden off too.
Yep, he cut Dustin Darden. He cut Rosa. He let Julie speak for quite a while. He let me speak for quite a while, several times. So, you know, again, the assembly and the members of the assembly seem to want to pick and choose what they want to do. So, and you actually got a chance to speak and ask some questions, which I thought was kind of nice. Nice to see you.
It was the very end. I was like the last one, but it was hard to not cuss. Honestly, Trina was sitting with me because we had just ended at the Trump rally, and she was sitting with me. And I was like, okay, because she obviously can hear him, you know. He's like, you know, Sarah, do you have any questions? And I'm like, okay, here we go. And that was one thing I was sitting there thinking about it as I was listening to everybody is, you know, they're locking down all these restaurants and bars, okay, and the restaurants have the contact tracing sheet, right? You don't have any contact tracing at stores. You can go in there and you can be in that store for 5 hours if you wanted to, and nobody would care. You can go shopping for curtains. You can go shopping for new bedding. You could pick out and paint. You could do all kinds of stuff. And it's like, let's start, looking at this from a perspective of the fact that you're shutting down certain businesses, but you're allowing other people to go and do things as frivolous as picking out bedding during a pandemic that is so highly, dangerous.
And
you can go by.
And they're not stopping anyone from going in there like a time limit or anything. I mean,
no.
I remember during the first shutdown, I thought this was pretty stupid, but so I remember during the first shutdown, they shut down Cabela's, they shut down Sportsman's Warehouse, basically a lot of the sporting goods stores. And now those places have things that the homeless could use, tents and chairs and heaters and whatnot. And here, Cabela's sits right next to Target. And they had Cabela's cut down to like 25 people in the store or some stupid number, arbitrary number. But literally you could drive 1,000 feet and go to Target and be in there with 400 people. Yeah. Same size building essentially. But apparently COVID is smart and knows which ones the grocery stores and which ones sell guns.
Right. Yep.
So. I
know. It's just... It's crazy to me. And the point you made about the tattoos, like obviously you don't want anyone to be shut down, but it's a fair point. They're all up in your personal space getting a tattoo, depending on where you're getting the tattoo. But
I have a little experience. I have a little experience with tattoos, so.
Yeah, I mean, I have one behind my ear, and even then they have to get in there,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be done.
Well, his excuse on that was, it's still 25%. But let me ask you something. If you've ever gone into a tattoo parlor, how many people are just hanging out in there? It's the tattooist and the person getting the tattoo. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's a huge spreader, and I get that. But, they had cut down at one time and I think, I'm not sure, I think it was one of the first persons to ask questions. But, I know whenever I went in for my eye surgery, they had just started opening up um, surgeries and stuff that weren't emergency.
Yes, it was Gracie Green.
Yes.
She's in our group. Grace Green. I think it's Grace.
Yeah. She asked, about
elective surgeries.
Yeah, non-emergency type surgeries, elective surgeries. Well, they had just opened that up when I went and got my eye surgery done. There was another eye surgeon that hadn't opened up yet, which is why I chose the one I did, which is probably a mistake. But tattooing is literally as invasive on your body as a surgery is. I mean, you can go in for elective surgery. You could have a friggin' mole removed. That's considered elective surgery. So anything that releases the blood into the atmosphere, or I don't know if anyone that's on here that's ever had one done. Sarah's had one. I've had countless. When they're using the needle and it's bouncing back and forth on your skin, it's throwing blood platelets and stuff in the air. I don't care who you are, it's still a pathogen. And I'm not saying that tattoo parlors need to shut down. I don't think any place needs to shut down. But for them to pick and choose businesses and allow tattoo parlors, pot shops, alcohol places to stay open.
Well, and that's when it's really not about safety.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, and the truth of the matter is, I really believe that in the very beginning, I think everybody, to a certain degree, I think there were a small group of people that called bullshit from the very beginning. But I do think that most people were like, okay, like, we can lock down for a couple weeks, figure out what this is. It's a little like unknown. Okay, whatever. But it's been 9 months.
Yeah. Well, I think after the first one, or during the first one, I think a lot of us were just kind of like, okay, we could probably live with this. We still had the federal money for unemployment and stuff like that. And a lot of us weren't freaked out like we are now. And, for me, I was still pissed off I was closed because it wasn't just hurting my pocketbook. But, our customers and stuff, their mental state, and you brought this up, or someone brought this up, about the, actually Dia was wanting to bring this up, about the suicide rates, things like that, because if people, this as well as I do, once you're out there and you're used to hanging out with certain people, and then you all of a sudden don't get to see those people for months at a time, it becomes part of your psyche, and it gets really hard. And Alaska is a unique beast as it is, with the winter being as long as it is. Yep. So I know that we had spoken to Rosa and her husband Dan, and the suicide rate out on the base right now is super high.
Yes.
And
hold on just a second. Julie just said that our video says it doesn't have any sound.
Really?
But I don't know. Maybe it just hurt. Can anybody let us know? I know there's a few people watching, so.
Hold on, I know why. So if she's probably looking at it, oh, you know what? I know why it says that. So it's a preview. I posted this to a few different groups, and she hasn't approved it yet. So once she approves it and clicks the video open, it'll have sound. It's like the preview. She has to open it up to hear it. It's in fact, I'll open it up to make sure. Hold on one second.
Okay, hold on.
Really? Yeah, we got sound.
Maybe it just hurt. Can anybody let us know? Once there's a few people through.
We do have sound. Hold on, I know why.
Be fine.
So I can actually turn it down so I can keep an eye on the comments. Amber Witcher says I can hear. Daniel says I can hear.
Okay.
So we got people. So Jared,
I let her know.
Okay, Jared Dunbar said he hates to be questioned, instantly gets frustrated and rude. That's 100% true with Felix. I mean, he had a hard time with what Rosa was saying. That was pretty obvious because he cut her off, and not only did he cut her off, but he kicked her out of the meeting entirely.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Rosa made a video afterward.
So I caught her video while she was still live, so I missed the first part of her saying that. I did not know that he kicked her out. that pisses me off now.
Yeah, he didn't just mute her.
Wow.
Well, he muted her once, and she unmuted herself, which I thought was classy. And then she disappeared all the way off my screen. And I had all the people that were on there. I had them at one point. I had it so I could see who was on there, and she disappeared. And
yeah, I thought she left.
No, I think he kicked her out.
Okay, yeah, because I saw then I got an alert that she was live and taking back Anchorage, and I was like, oh, she must have been like, okay, screw this, I'm gonna go live and tell everybody what happened or whatever. Okay, wow, that makes sense. That's crazy.
Yeah, I gotta real quick. I gotta share this to Save Anchorage again.
He is Felix is definitely somebody that isn't good with confrontation. You can tell. He definitely took a class in communication. Gina was like, "Oh, at least he's saying thank you for your question." I'm like, "That's just classic, like, communication class 101."
Yep.
But he doesn't do good. And question and answer. He didn't answer anybody's question. And I love how I love that Julie Brophy stuck it back to him, because he brought up the fact, like, you're spending money, you guys are spending money on all these pet projects. And then he starts talking about the state and how the state needs to give us money. I'm like, you're not even answering her question. You're not even actually addressing the question she had and the concern she had. Local government, Anchorage, the municipality of Anchorage, it has its own set of everything separate from the state. And you guys are doing a crappy ass job of allocating money. And what I thought was very interesting is, in my live I did the other day after I, was feeling better, people are like, oh, they're not going through with purchasing Alaska Club anymore. And they use that as their own soapbox of like, oh,
look, we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, we're doing the right thing. Well, I'm like, no. No, you're not doing the right thing. You're not doing it for us. You're not doing it because we listened to you. You're doing it because you probably didn't actually look inside the Alaska Club. And then you went to do that and you go, oh crap, this place is a hot mess, right? It's going to cost way more money to fix it, okay? But they're still going through with that project.
Yep.
And like you said, you're like, oh, so you're just going to create more homeless people. It's like, it's so stupid, especially now. You're going to continue to lock people down. You're going to continue to say businesses can't open. And yet you're still going to take $22.5 million and waste it, on the homeless. And it's not even for homeless as much as it's for vagrants. Right. And I need to be I keep trying to tell myself to not say homeless, because 80% of the people that they're trying to address are vagrants. It's not even homeless people.
Well, and we know one of the guys out there that's homeless and that's struggling right now, and that's Sean Ryan. Okay, he's not what I would consider a vagrant. He's actually participating in the public process. He's coming out to these meetings. He's participating. I mean, those are the kind of guys I have no problem helping. I mean, I we were at Lamex a while back, and he was there, and I asked him flat out. I said, hey, you need some help? And he explained to me what had happened. He actually had been working, and then came back to Anchorage, and then didn't have a job. So, I tossed the guy $20, and I said, hey, go have dinner on us. But you're exactly right when it comes to who these buildings are for. It's not for the homeless. It's for people who refuse to help themselves. And, they're expecting the government to take care of them. And that's exactly why this is such a waste of money. The problem with the lockdown and the shutdowns is it's not affecting them, so to speak. It's affecting the people that want to work. It's affecting the people who are not lazy, who don't have a substance abuse issue, and are, a good part of the Anchorage society. We're trying to keep. Here's the thing that kills me about this whole shutdown thing. We're trying to keep the economy moving, right? Yeah. We're trying to keep money in Anchorage, and trying to help one another. And the assembly is literally trying to drain what we have here in the city, and they're trying to spend the federal money. And I think, somebody posted this in there. I think that the money, the CARES money, and everything like that they have, I think they have to spend that by December 31st. I seen a question on that.
I think so. And Felix even mentioned that I'd hate for the state to have to give back, millions of dollars to the federal government Like they did that in a few assembly meetings too. They put it back on the state, and I'm not suggesting
Yep.
that the state is perfect. Okay, I get it. The state has its own issues and everything, but stop dodging
Yep.
the problems that you have. You know, that you guys are creating, that you guys are facilitating, making way worse, and putting it on the state. You know,
So I
the
have.
truth is about it. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. So I had put in a question, and me and Sarah had kind of chat about this a little bit. So we wanted to know with the lockdowns and the shutdowns and stuff, if they were going to allow the assembly to remain open. And I actually sent him a question, and
Felix, right?
yes, Felix, and he's actually and here's the thing. Okay, so I I don't want to get on here with these assembly members and sound militant, and I've used that word before. I don't want to make them so uncomfortable that they won't talk to us, because I think that having some way to communicate with them is always a good thing, whether or not we agree with them or whether or not they continue to keep screwing with us. If we get too emotional or we get too angry at them, and I think that we should be angry. I mean, everybody should be. But I think that if we don't find a way to communicate with them in some respect, then I think that we lose all kinds of ground as far as having any kind of conversation with them at all. Now, with that said, I think personally, me, and I'll say this publicly, I don't care. I think every single one of them that has gone against the city of Anchorage and the people that have been going in there, I think every one of them need to be in handcuffs. That's my opinion. But at the same time, I can still keep my emotions in check, and I can still talk to them and ask them questions, and I know that they'll respond to me.
Well, and I think it creates a foundation of or a history of look for the last 5 months or however long, you know, you've gone up and you've testified and you've had communication with different assembly members, and it's been respectful and it's been calm, and it's okay, look at this. I can be an adult and have a actual conversation with you, and now you have pushed me to the point where I'm really, really pissed off, you know, and this is where you've taken us, you know, instead of it just coming out and being crazy. The truth is that everybody communicates differently. And I think the biggest thing that frustrates me with the assembly is that, you know, they can't be fired.
Right.
And they know that. Okay. They do.
Yeah, their
And
jobs are safe.
Yes. Regardless of however they feel personally. Okay. And we want to act like, oh, the assembly is supposed to be nonpartisan, whatever it is. We know, you know, it's pretty much full of liberals. But the problem I have is that they can't be fired, and they know that. They know that you have to go through a recall process and on, and they can't just be fired.
Right.
And if they could be fired, they would have been fired.
Oh, easily.
You know what I mean?
I'll tell you right now, being a manager of a business, they wouldn't have lasted a week working for me, just because of their condescending. You know, they're so condescending when it comes to talking to the public. And they'll talk to their side, and, you know, because their public is basically kissing their ass. And I mean, you hear it every time that you get on the assembly, and they're thanking the assembly for the work that they do, and blah, 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 blah. Yep. It becomes one of those things where, you know, they're only listening to one side of the political spectrum. They're not listening to the hard, you know, the blue collar workers, and they're not listening to the people that are running the restaurants and bar owners like Paul Berger and you know, the people that are not. Paul's never had anybody in I'm going to say Paul because I just went down and talked to him. He's never had anyone test positive in his business, but yet he's had 2 people that he knows of that have committed suicide due to the COVID stuff. So, you know, again, it goes back to the, you know, what is more important, your life or catching a bug that may or may not kill you? I mean, they're not looking at the mental health part of this at all. Zero.
No.
Anyway, I was going to mention this. So I had sent Felix a question on whether or not they were going to keep it open, and here's his response. I haven't made that decision yet. So apparently he's going to make this decision whether or not they're going to keep the assembly open. He said, I have not made that decision yet. It'll be made by Tuesday. Likely the chambers will still be open, but in even further reduced capacity with more strict physical distancing. And of course, then he goes on to say, and of course, I'll do my best to answer questions. I have plenty of questions myself. I'm happy to put more of these kinds of events on when I have more concrete answers. So he's going to make the determination, and whether or not. Here's the thing that irritates me. Okay, so he's the chair, so he makes these decisions without our public input, without the rest of the assembly's input, without the mayor's input, which I'm sure she would side with his ass anyway. But what I'm getting at here is the public process that that we are afforded through the Constitution is no longer there. Nope. It's gone. It's been like wadded up, thrown in the trash, and lit on fire.
Well, and again, going back to my original rant with him, but you can still go to Target and get curtains and shop for bedding.
Yep.
And get new paint and get your PS4, or it's 5 now.
Or you can go into sex shops too. I don't know if you knew that or not. That's an essential. Yeah. That's an essential business.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But goodness gracious.
That's an essential business. But you got to have sex with a mask on now.
It just kills me. Like, I need to make a list. That's what I need to do, is I need to make a list of how Dia did a great job when she testified at the last assembly meeting of, like, pointing out just the ridiculousness of this. But I do. I mean, like, you cannot tell me it's about safety when you can sit not to butt on an airplane.
When they can lean in, and not only that, but when they can lean in and out when they're at the assembly.
Yeah.
And whisper sweet nothings in each other's ears.
Yeah, airplane travel never got shut down completely. I mean, like, I know they did, like, okay, no internal or incoming flights or whatever, but, like, you can sit on an airplane next to somebody you don't know, but you can't go into an assembly chamber, and it just is silly. Like, and I don't know why people can't see it. And one thing I think that I've been I've been purposely not commenting a lot on KTUU and like ADN posts in more recent months, because, to be honest, it's just a waste of time.
It is.
But I did this weekend, and I reminded myself of why I need to stop. There are people out there that are truly, truly terrified and are truly, I don't go anywhere unless, I do curbside pickup for groceries. And that's it. And if in rare circumstances, my boyfriend will go into the store, and every time he comes home, he talks about how people had their mask below their nose, mm-hmm. and how there were people not wearing a mask. And I'm like, and today I got into a back and forth with a lady, and, I said, I laid out a couple things. I said, $1.99 fabric from Joanne Fabrics is our saving grace.
Right.
You can't have a funeral for your family, but there's looting and protests that are just go rampant. And doesn't any of that, spark anything with you? And she literally deleted her original comment, so it just left my comment. I'm like, I have been blocked and defriended by like 3 people since this started. I have been. Oh,
I've been done a lot more than that.
Yeah, and it's just insane. I'm just like,
you need to step up your game.
Yeah, as soon as I start making valid points that go against what you believe, you just shut me down. I mean, it's insane to me. I just don't understand the logic. I'm not saying you can't be taking precautions. Do you think me going Instacart isn't precautions? It's not precautions. I don't care. I've had COVID, right?
Right.
But I do Instacart because I don't want to deal with the bullshit of mask at the store. I mean, I have gone to the store, and I will go to the store. I just don't want to deal with it, right? But one thing we have to realize is there's a lot of people. There are a good amount of people that are absolutely loving the assembly right now.
Oh, yeah.
With the lockdowns.
They
are like, they're cheerleaders, and they love it. But I do think there are a lot more people that are over it. They just don't voice it because it's easier for them to just comply. It's easy to just wear the mask and do all the things because I don't want confrontation. And that's the problem we're having, I think, is that we need more teeth. I think of the new Jurassic Park where he goes, we need more teeth. And that's how I feel about it. We need more people that are willing to stand up and speak up,
Well, here's the thing, and this is where I'll go as far as if the assembly was really serious, and it was as dangerous as say imagine if this was some kind of like flesh eating bacteria, right? And it's in the air, and everybody's getting it, and people are walking around like zombies, and whatever. If they were really to take this seriously, okay, and you mentioned this with the masks and everything else, you would have. Now, and keep in mind, all three of me, you, we know other people that have gotten COVID, and we've all recovered. The worst off was probably my wife out of the whole situation, and she's doing absolutely fabulous now. I mean, you can't even tell that she's ever had it. In fact, it was almost like my wife went to spa day for like a week. But anyway, if they were to take this actually seriously, and I mentioned this in the phone call that I had with them 2 weeks ago, that they would mandate a certain type of mask, right? They would have certain specifications, or they would have certain
they would give you
standards. Yeah, well, different
guidelines.
Yeah, just different standards.
They give nothing, and people just leave them in their car. I'm like, I grabbed my Seahawks one out from inside my truck. I'm like, here, Ryan, it's my brother. Like, I never wear it, and he has to wear one. So I'm like, just here you go. But there's no guidelines to it at all. It's
comforting to know that if I were to ever go to a store and forget my mask, I could just go to the bathroom, pull off my underwear, and throw it over my face. I mean, literally. I mean, that's how. No, I'm going to go down a different rabbit hole, but keep in mind the same cloth that you've got on your face is over your butthole. When you fart, you can still smell it. So, how effective is that mask that you got on your face? So with that said, I mean, we have to maintain some kind of, I don't know. I think we need to start thinking outside the box. I think that we're going to have to, I mentioned this earlier in a post that I did on Facebook or something. I think that when we go in there, so one of the things that they can't stand is they can't stand it whenever they're outnumbered. And it's obvious. That's one reason I think personally, that's why they're cutting down the numbers on who can go in the assembly. So I think personally that we should go down and we should set, and this happened before COVID happened. One person, I think it was a homeless guy or something, went down and sat in front of the dais and did push-ups or calisthenics or some crap. I don't know what it was. I think that when we go in there the next time, I think each one of us should go down there and sit with our back against the dais so they can't see us. And then when we want to speak, we just get up and go walk around and we speak. And this way, one, they can't see our faces. Two, they don't know what the hell we're doing. Three, it's going to be annoying as shit. Four, they can't really stop us from doing that because we're still under the numbers that they set. There's nothing in there saying we have to sit in seats. I think that, we get 5 or 6 people or 10 people or whatever it is, and we just sit around there. We social distance. We sit around there and we sit underneath of where they're at, and they can't see us. And I think that would give us, I don't know. I think it'd be funny personally. I think it would shock them a little bit. But what are they going to do? They got what now? They got one security guard. They got what, 5, 6 security guards in there now?
I know. When the last assembly meeting, I go, oh my gosh. I said to the security guards, I was like, there's so many of you now. You realize they think we're crazy people. And she kind of looked at me. I go, we're not. We're just sick of their bullshit. And she laughed at me.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. I've talked to the main security guard. I can't remember what his name is now. I apologize for that. But he's a big guy. He's got now he's got a bulletproof vest. Right? Like, we're going to go in there and start shooting the place up.
I know. I asked him about that. I go, so did they just get that because of us? And he goes, no, it's been in my contract for a while. They're doing it finally. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and he works for a different company, so it could be. Yeah. But me and him can have a good conversation, and we agree on 90% of the things we're talking about. Yeah. Of course, he's not doing that in front of them. We're doing it back in the cafeteria area, and I can have a good conversation with him. And, he doesn't agree with anything that they're doing because he's going to eventually be affected anyway. And, the one thing we have to be careful of is we can't take it out on those guys because they're doing their job. They're paid to do something. It would be like if you're in a store and someone comes in and trashes the place. What are you going to do? You're going to probably kick the person out. Yeah. So I get their stance on stuff. They have to do their job. But I think we have allies with those folks. As long as, and if you look at the people that are in there helping him, 90% of those guys are Samoan, and they're all friendly. Every one of those people are super friendly, and I appreciate what they're doing. I don't think that the assembly or the library needs to pay that many people to do it. It's not like we've gotten violent.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Well, it's just like I know. How many times am I going to mention this? But the Dyson hand dryers in the bathroom. I'm like, you had to get the Dyson hand dryers.
Yeah, those are probably $3,000 units that they probably cost $150 to make, and they spent $3,000 on them.
I'm like, is this for real right now? What? Dyson hand dryers.
Yeah.
I can't.
That's for all the homeless people coming in there taking showers in their bathrooms.
Well, right. I'm like, and then they're wanting another. This is another thing that kills me. It drives me crazy. When they passed the budget for the CARES Act money, it was like basically part of the money was to staff more people to deal with the facilitation of the care. I'm like, work harder.
Well, look at the code enforcement. $60,000 a year for 3 new people. So $180,000 a year that could be helped. That could help 5 people get through this closure. And they're going to basically pay someone to go and write tickets or, give fines out. I mean, I personally think that a bunch of conservatives should have applied for that job and then went from door to door. Yep, they're complying. That would have been our best option.
Have you seen Demolition Man?
Yep.
Okay, well, I just watched it while I was sick, and I hadn't seen it in a few years. And I feel like everyone needs to watch that movie again. Because a lot of it was like spot on, like the cursing thing where you get the ticket and all that, and like all restaurants are Taco Bell because it was the only one that survived the the great chain restaurant of blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. You can't have sex. You can't
murder, death, kill.
You can't do anything because it's bad for your health. Like all of that is just so, it's like reminds me of kind of what's happening now, it's like, but they're picking and choosing. And it's interesting because I've had a couple people say, the vulnerable, we need to protect the vulnerable. And I remember there was this one woman in a comment on like KTU or one of the posts, one of the mainstream media here. And she said, my husband has immune compromised illness. And so he is very highly susceptible to the virus right now. And I would never expect anyone to sacrifice their own life to keep him safe.
Right.
That is my job. That is what I am supposed to do. I am supposed to do what I have to do to protect my family. And it's like, that's how I feel about it. I mean, it's the same. I equate it to like me wanting everybody to stop eating McDonald's because McDonald's makes me fat.
Right.
It's like, no. It's my decision to go to McDonald's. Like, it's my decision. And I think the big problem that a lot of people are having with this is that it's out of their control.
And they're all control freaks. They don't know what to do. Yep.
Exactly. They can't control if they get it or not. Or, if this person isn't wearing a mask, that automatically means that they're a dangerous person and they need to be dealt with. There's a woman that's an admin on a group that has like 20,000 people. And he literally in the comments of a post said, I believe that anybody that doesn't take this virus seriously should be denied medical care. And I'm just like...
Well, that's like people running around saying every Trump supporter should die.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that's how nasty it's gotten.
I'm like, I don't even understand, like, how you could say that. Like, it's literally... you wanting people to potentially die, but in the same breath, it's because you want other people not to die. I mean, It's like, do you even hear yourself?
The hypocrisy,
you sound like a crazy person.
The hypocrisy runs extremely. So, I know a bunch of us had gotten sick. We all tested positive, a bunch of us. And I think the last count, I counted like 8 people. And I think, I've been thinking about this whole thing and trying to figure out, I did my own contact tracing on who I was around and, where we were at. And, yada yada yada, and thinking about how it could have spread.
Yeah.
I think I have it figured out.
So
yeah, I have it figured out, and it wasn't any of us that spread it. I think what happened was when we went to that flag waving event on Northern Lights and New Seward Highway. Remember?
Yes.
Okay, that's the day that that's the day we all kind of were in close proximity. And by close proximity, I mean 3, 4, 5, 10 feet.
Yeah.
But the only person I came in contact with that I didn't know was the guy I got into it with in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's the only person I can think of. He wasn't wearing a mask. He was in his own car, and he was like frothing at the mouth at people and acting like an asshole and whatever. And that's the only. And I got pretty close to him, not as in to hit him or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
no, I remember seeing you were giving it to him a little bit.
If he'd have kept going, there might have been a chance that someone could have got drug out of a car. I was not very happy that day.
No, you weren't.
And I don't get that way, but that's the only person I know of that I don't know that I came into contact. And I didn't touch him or anything like that, but getting that close to somebody and them screaming and hollering and everything like that, I'm sure stuff was flying and whatever. But that's the only person I can think of. And then, after we had the argument, he pulled around in the parking lot and sat there for like a good 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the purpose of him doing that was, maybe filming us or something. I don't know. But
well, there was a gentleman today at the Trump rally, and I went and talked to him because he pulled up blasting fuck Trump, like music. And so I went and chatted with him, and I actually had a good conversation with him. And I told him, I said, the only thing, I was like, honestly, I don't care if you don't like Trump. I don't care if people do. My problem is that you chose to come over here, okay, and use your energy to shit on us and what we're doing. Why don't you take the energy that you have and do something positive with it?
Yep.
Go and do a Biden rally. Go and do something. And he's like, well, it's the same thing. Like, why are you out here celebrating a candidate that didn't even win? I said, I'm not doing anything I'm not shitting on anybody with what I'm doing. I want to do this because it's what I want to do. And it's a positive thing. You're not doing that. He's like, well, this is positive for me. I said, it's positive while you're shitting on other people. And he was like, I understand. I can understand that. And it was a good conversation. And I did thank him because I told him about the 16-year-old girls that came, and were screaming and spitting and being crazy people. And I said, I've had more negativity from the left side of the fence more in my entire life simply because I wanted to vote for Trump. And that is crazy to me. I have never seen anyone go to a Biden rally and do this kind of stuff, Anyways, but he talked to me and he said he was actually more in the middle. He's registered independent. He just doesn't like Trump. And I told him about a couple things. He said, I'll go home and look at them. It was a good conversation. But it was not the interaction you had with your gentleman. Yeah.
Well, I think I could have taken the guy. I felt pretty positive. I probably could have if I needed to. But, the thing is and Felix is a good example of this. The left or the crazy left, whatever you want to call them, they are supposed to be the ones that are supposed to be compassionate. They're supposed to be the ones open-minded and tolerant. Yep, that's a good word. They're supposed to be the ones that are supposed to listen, right? They're supposed to be the good listeners and the educated ones. I'll tell you right now, I know a lot of people that are educated and they are not working. They have chosen really poor educational and I'm not saying education is bad at all. I think everyone should enlighten themselves and get the education that they need for the jobs that they need. But there's a lot of people out there that are educated that are dumber than shit. And Felix is a pretty good example of somebody that when they get pressured, they run away. And I know people who would run into a fire, and I know people who would run away from a fire. Yeah. And if Felix is the one that's going to run away from it and not know what the hell to do, and we've elected this guy as a city leader that represents his area, wherever that is. And there's some smart people. I'm going to say right now, and I might get some hate for this. There are smart people on the assembly. There's some brilliant people on the assembly. But we keep saying this, and I've had conversations with different people. We keep saying that what they're doing is stupid. I don't think what they're doing is stupid. I think they know exactly what they're doing. There's a reason for what they're doing. I just don't think that we have seen all of the reason.
Well, I think that what it really comes down to is it just comes down to, I think, different perspectives and different beliefs, and you're just seeing it play out in their actions. That's really what it comes down to. It's that, if you think of, and this, again, I'm very new into politics, so I have a fresher perspective, if you will.
Right.
But like what I have seen more so than probably in the last, 8 or 9 months, really, has been, the left or a lot of people on the left, I'm not going to say everybody, but are all about focusing on a smaller group of people. Okay? If you think of what they want and what they stand up for, the LGBTQXYZ community. I'm just saying it's so long now.
Right.
It's and if you Google, like, a lot of the big thing right now is trans rights. Okay. And if you Google how many trans people are in the United States right now, it's 0.6% of our population.
Yeah.
And, and I put a comment on something once and it kind of blew up, and I didn't intend for it to, but I said, one of the things I learned in management is you really have to look at the decisions you make and make sure you're not catering a decision to a very small group of people without looking at how it impacts the larger group of people. And that's I think that's what happened. That's what's happening right now. What we're experiencing with COVID is that they're trying to protect this small group of people that, are the more vulnerable or whatnot. And while doing that, they're basically giving a big middle finger to everyone else. You think of what they're trying to do with the homeless population. Let's put millions upon millions of dollars into a group of 2,000 people, and but in the same breath, we're going to just basically tell these,
other side,
yeah, this 300,000 people, fuck off. Like, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, you're fine. These are the people that need help. Meanwhile, like you said, you're going to create more homeless by trying to allocate these resources. So if you think of that, and I think the biggest, I don't want to say problem, but frustration a lot of times with conservatives is that we've spent, or I would say you guys more, not necessarily me, I'm a little newer to this, but a lot of conservatives have spent a very long time, not everybody, okay, people have been fighting the good fight for a while, but conservatives have spent a long time laying down, showing their belly,
yeah,
and just letting it go, because it's easier to just whatever. I'm too busy working. I'm too busy raising my family to care. Well, now you're pissed because it's gone too far,
right?
And now you're so angry that everything that they do is wrong,
right?
And I'm not suggesting that I agree with everything they do, but I think if we have to get to a place where we're not fighting them with the same venom that we hate that they fight us with.
Right. Well, I think and along those lines, as far as showing your belly and that kind of stuff, I think what's happened politically is I think that conservatives have gotten too concerned with being electable. I think that is something that the party leaders and stuff like that have really pushed, and unfortunately, we want to seem like the sane ones. Right, we want to make sure that the people that are voting for us believe that that we're the ones that are going to be sane. We're not going to make crazy, impulsive decisions. And the problem with that is we have exactly done what you said. We've rolled over, showed our bellies. We've given up. It appears we've given up anyway. And we don't look like the party of strength anymore. And if you look at, if you go back, you're a little younger than I am, so I'm not sure how much of Reagan you remember if you were. How old are you?
I was born.
You
I was
don't have to
born
tell
in
me that.
83.
Okay, so
83.
Reagan was still around, but
Yes.
your one that you remember is probably going to be Bush more than Reagan. So I remember
Yeah.
Reagan. I remember how the economy was. I remember how the public perception of him was. Reagan wasn't a very well liked president until the assassination attempt, and then when that happened, it pulled the country together a little bit behind him, and he did some things and got Russia to back off on the Cold War. There were some good things that he did, but there was also some bad things he did. And I'm old enough to remember both of them. The one bad thing he did was he eliminated a lot of the mental health facilities and things like that in the country.
Yeah.
So there was. Now, keep in mind, back then, there was a lot of bipartisan stuff. So you had Republicans and Democrats working together, actually. And up until Trump happened, there was still some bipartisanship. But since Trump, there hasn't been any. I mean, it's gotten to where
and
they've hated each other so bad.
It's not even just Trump. I mean, it's like both sides digging their heels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's unfortunate because I'll follow some conservative people on like Twitter and stuff, and they'll like do a video of a looting, and it'll say like Trump's America, and I'm like, but I see what they're saying, right? Like, it is Trump's America,
right.
And unfortunately, what people I don't think understand fully is that the Trump's America or whatnot is not everything's his fault. Everything that's wrong with our world is his fault. And I've always been very kind of able to see both sides of it, and I've always kind of looked at it like politicians suck.
Right.
Like Trump isn't a politician, so it's like Biden. Like, what has he done in 45 years?
Nothing.
Or 47 years or whatever it is. Like nothing. He has done nothing. And
well,
I don't know how.
He has done some things. He has done some things, but everything he's done has been racist. If you look at, he passed a crime bill that was all racist. 90% of the people that got arrested were black people. I mean, the thing is we've been saying he hasn't done anything. He has, but it's never been pro-America type stuff. It's always been it's always been anti-migrant. It's been anti-black. I mean, look what he said. He said it this year. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. I mean, how fucking racist can you get? Excuse my French.
Well, and that's one of the things I said to the gentleman today. I said, you do know that there's a lot of LGBT community. I suck at saying that, but you know what I'm saying? Gay people, okay, that really do support Trump. And he said, yeah, but it's not that many. I said, but it's enough. Isn't it enough for you to go, I wonder why they do? Well, and that's my thing. And I told him, I said, I would just do a little bit more research. Like, he said that he doesn't think the media is trying to make Trump look bad. And I told him, yeah, I know.
What planet is the guy from?
I know. I said, go home and research the Walkaway Foundation, that guy, because he had a moment. He's a gay guy, and he had a moment that it was an epiphany. He realized the media took a story that's this big and went, focus only on this. That is manipulation. That is making somebody look a certain way that you want to make them look without giving all the details. So, but one other thing that really has been driving me crazy with conservatives is y'all, not you, Dustin, obviously, but a lot of y'all are so damn independent and you want to be left alone that why we're where we're at is because of us.
Yep.
And I'm just as guilty. I'm just as guilty. I remember when I started the group, and I remember it was like day 2, and there was like 300 people, and I was like, what have I started? And I was like, okay, here we go, Sarah. Like, buckle up. Like, you did it. You're in your head. You've been thinking, like, what can I do to help? What can I do to help turn this around? Here it is. Here's your opportunity. But I think part of the problem that we're experiencing is you have a lot of people that are wanting to just wear the mask. Just wear the mask. Let's get over it. It'll be over if we just wear the mask.
Well,
I even saw people that hate the mask posting pictures of them at voting wearing a mask.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, guys, this is why they're winning. This is why we look like crazy people. The 20 of us that don't want to wear a mask and that are vocal about wearing a mask. I got into a fight with one of my best friends. Her crying, me crying over it. And you know what pissed me off the most about it was that I have 2 other best friends that are in the same circle, and they feel the same fucking way I do, but they don't speak up about it. And I'm like, that's fucked up. I'm like the lamb, you know,
well,
I get slaughtered because I get to stand up for what I, you know.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so even when Trump ran in 2016 and when he won, okay, there was he only won, and I'll tell you right now, he only won because people didn't speak up. The media didn't have a clue how many people supported him. There was a silent majority, right? So I think that people are still in that mindset. I think that the reason that they're that way is several different things. They don't want to be ostracized, for one. They don't want to lose their jobs.
Yeah.
The cancel culture is real. It really is.
It is.
You know, so my advice to conservatives is make sure that the person you go to work for is a conservative. That way you don't get your nuts cracked whenever you say something that the other side may think's off color. Now, with that said, I think what ends up happening is, you know, people don't want to be, at least our side, they don't want to be, ostracized. They don't want to be, you know, called out in certain respects. They want to remain independent. They want to remain, you know, they want to be left alone. And I think that's what probably most of our problem is the fact that we want to be left alone. And here's the thing that the assembly doesn't understand. And I'm going to bring up a little story from my state that I grew up in. So back in, I can't remember what year it was in the 80s. There was a guy that his name is Marvin Heemeyer. I posted this story a few times now, but the city of Granby, Colorado, pushed this guy.
Story.
Yeah, I pushed this guy into a corner, and I wanted to mention this tonight with Felix, but I didn't know how to do it without sounding threatening, and I don't want to sound threatening. Yeah. But we're getting to the point where eventually they're going to push us in a corner. Anyway, the story was, guy built a bulldozer, built it to where nobody could get in and get to him or anything, and he took this bulldozer.
He welded himself inside of it, right?
Yes, yeah. Put cameras on it and everything so he could see to drive it. And he went from public officials' place to public officials' place and destroyed not regular citizens' places. He went after all the politicians that screwed him over. And what ended up happening was the city officials basically shut his business down by changing streets. Literally, they had this planned out to where they could shut him out. And they changed the streets to where he couldn't get to his business, and he owned a muffler shop. Mm-hmm. Now, as a kid growing up in Colorado, I remember the story very well because it was all over the news for like 4 hours. And it was the cops trying to get to him, and they used tractors and all kinds of other stuff. The guy was brilliant when he came up with this. The only thing he didn't, and he would have done a lot more damage, but the only thing he didn't take into account was one of the businesses that he went into, he fell into the basement. And he couldn't get his dozer out, yeah. So the point behind this is what the assembly's doing, and whether or not they believe it or understand it or not, I don't know, is they're pushing people into a corner to where they're going to get desperate. Mm-hmm. They're going to do something foolish, and what's going to end up happening, and this is not just in Alaska, this is across the country, is you're going to be vigilantes going to start popping up.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that it's going to happen now. I'm saying that what's going to happen is these people literally are cornering a badger, and they're going to find out real quick.
Honey badger.
Honey badger.
Honey badger. Yeah. Honey badger don't give a shit.
No, at all. They're going to find out that when you push enough people as far into a corner as they have in many cities across the country, that eventually the person that they pushed into a corner is going to bite back. And it's going to get to the point where it's going to be the people that they're pushing they're not going to have anything left to lose.
Yeah.
And they're going to be willing to stand up and say, we're done. And when it gets to that point, it's going to get ugly and it's going to get nasty. And unfortunately, the people are going to get hurt. I hate to say that, but down the road, I can see this turning very badly.
Well, I remember the night that the gentleman laid in front of Berkowitz's car, and I remember that whole scene kind of got a lot of flack from the local groups. You know, there were a bunch of people that didn't like that, and you know, and I made a post about it in the comment section of all of them because I wanted people to kind of be reminded that look, we've been locked down since this day, right? We did 5 days of testimony, and 70% of people did not want them to purchase the hotels.
Right.
And I just like went down the list, right? You know, we were called racist. We were labeled a riot.
Yep.
We were not allowed inside the chambers. They were going to call the cops on us out on the grass. Okay? Like, I may not have been the one to lay in front of the car, but I 100% approve that message. Sorry. I'm just saying, like, at some point, you have to understand that there are people, like you said, out there that are going to get pushed to a point where they're going to be done. Like, it's not going to be pretty. And then what's going to happen is they're going to be labeled as a crazy person. And I'm going to be there with exhibit A through Z of all the bullshit that they try to do, you know?
Well, we still need to get together, me, you, Rosa, Angela, anyone else that's been involved in this from pretty much the beginning. You know, we need to get together, and we could probably write a book on how stupid this has been. #1 bestseller from Anchorage, Alaska. But you know, it's gotten to the point where, yeah, I'm going to be unemployed again for the 3rd time this year. You know, and I don't have the safety net of the unemployment crap that they've had. I kind of pushed that a little bit tonight, and they've got no answer as to how they're going to help the people here. You know, I pushed, you know, where's that money going to go from the building that they're not buying?
And it's going to go right. They're keeping it for that.
Oh,
they're still pushing forward with that agenda.
Well, here's
some kind of building.
Here's what I think they're doing with that money. Okay, so instead of four or five buildings that they were going to buy, now there's only going to be 2 or 3. So I think what they're going to do is the money that they didn't spend on the Alaska Club, I think they're going to use that to renovate the other ones. I think that they, you know, were throwing darts at a dartboard or something like that and said, okay, well, these are our best options. And you know, keep in mind, they're still going to have the Golden Line, which is on like literally the worst intersection in the city of Anchorage.
Yes.
For people to step off of, get hit, and die. There's been 3 people die in that area in the last 3 months, something like that.
Yeah, it's very silly. I mean, there's people that, I mean, every day you drive in Anchorage, there's people that cross the street without going to the crosswalk.
Yeah, and throwing caution to the wind completely.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that. I think that the people in the assembly that we're dealing with, I think that they're literally living in their own world. They want this socialist utopia, whatever it is that they want. I think that they see, you know, how China is making millions of dollars under communism or whatever. Everybody's living on top of one another. I think that eventually that's going to end up happening here, or that's what they're hoping is going to happen here. Yeah. And you know, we have now they're talking about you can't leave the state. I've seen this mentioned a few times now. They're talking about not allowing people to leave the state unless you take a vaccine. Sorry, they can kiss my white lily ass.
Well, and I mean, the people that are like, just sign me up, let me get this vaccine that's been in trials for 9 months max. I don't understand that, you know.
And they've had side effects.
Well, yeah, and I also, another thing too is like, not talking about polio here.
No.
We're talking about a flu virus.
A survivable virus.
My experience with COVID was weird. I will admit that. It lasted a longer time than I probably thought it would have. And it was a weird experience. I had weird symptoms. But I never had to go to the hospital. The only time I've ever gone to any kind of like urgent care is when I had the flu with walking pneumonia, when I had pneumonia, and when I had bronchitis. Right. And it was because I needed medicine. And the only reason I had to go is that I needed a prescription. Give me the good stuff.
Right.
I can't get rid of it on my own.
Right.
And I know that's not everybody's experience with COVID, but you cannot tell me that the people that end up going to the emergency room with COVID is not somewhat, the reason behind it isn't because of fear.
Right.
Honestly, I do think that there are people that are like, oh my God, I can't taste or can't smell. I'm going to go to the hospital because, you know, I might have
dying.
COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you can't tell me that. And the whole, this mask thing is crazy to me too. It's like, no, you don't, it doesn't matter what mask you wear. You could wear, you know, you could cut up an old shirt and sew it and put it on and you're fine. You can go to Joann Fabrics and you can get $1.99 fabric, sew yourself a mask at home. As long as you have your face covered, you are the golden child. And it's crazy that you're not digging deeper.
Right.
And going, why is it that I can wear a t-shirt on my face and
or
that's
a flag.
and that's protecting me. And I get no looks, I get no bad, nobody talks to me, nobody says anything. But if I don't have it, I'm like public enemy number one.
Yeah.
Like that logic just doesn't make sense to me. And
So,
to think that it's going to protect you from a virus, that in order to actually work around it in a lab, they wear the whole nine.
yeah.
You know,
Well, they're wearing literally. So going to the hospital and being in the ER, and you know, seeing the stuff that I talked to my doctor or Angela's doctor a few times on the phone. Mm-hmm. So they are wearing a zero pressure suit. And what that means, whenever they came, I'll give you some examples real quick before I go into this, the stuff I was talking about with Marvin Heemeyer and Killdozer and everything, I am not advocating for violence. Neither one of us are.
No.
We don't, that's the last thing that we would ever want.
I'm just saying somebody's going to end up doing it.
Someone, yeah. And the thing, here's the thing is,
just saying.
And you're going to push someone far enough, someone's going to do something stupid. We're not advocating for that at all.
Yeah.
So if this ever gets to an assembly member or whatever, this is on record. I don't want to see anyone ever get hurt.
No.
But I'm just saying, don't push people to a point where they're going to get desperate enough to want to do that.
Yes.
Now, with that said, give you the experience of what it was like whenever I called the ambulance for Angela. So when I called the ambulance for them, it was 5:00 in the morning. The ambulance, the fire truck shows up. There's like 5 guys out in my neighborhood. It literally looks like we're under an alien invasion. These guys show up. They've got a hose coming out of their mask, going down into their suit. They've got a belt on where that goes down there, and it's got a battery pack, and they're pumping oxygen into their suit. 5 guys. 1 guy came in the house. Everyone else wouldn't come close to the front door, which I understand. Both of us had COVID. Whatever. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't let me go out and hug my wife on her way out. They didn't want anyone around. I literally looked like they were a hazmat crew and we just had an alien invasion. Yeah. Now, when I went to the ER, the ambulance came and picked me up. I didn't want to drive because I was lightheaded. So I chose to take a ride in an ambulance, non-emergency style. So they came out. I got in the ambulance. I walked in, got into it. Those guys, same ambulance company, same everything else. Those guys were not wearing zero pressure suits. Those guys had the same mask, but they didn't have the hose coming out of the back of their head. And I was coughing a lot. And those guys didn't seem to care. Now, when I got to the ER, they put me in a zero pressure room. And the doctor that I had coming in to see me, a nurse, I guess, was not wearing one of those zero pressure suits. She had the full face mask and a mask on underneath of it. But the precautions that I noticed that they took between picking Angela up and me going into the ER was totally different. Now, with that said, they kept me in that room the whole time I was there. And then they let me walk right out the front door, infected and all. Right past about 30 people waiting to go in the ER. So, how serious is this? And I've got to say, I'm walking out coughing because they had me on albuterol or whatever. But I'm walking out. Of course, I've got a mask on, but I'm coughing in my elbow and all this kind of stuff. No one even blinked. None of the people, receptionists, none of the doctors. They told me which way to go when I left.
Yeah.
So I'm walking. How many people did I infect on the way out?
Well, I want to do an experiment where I saw a picture of a group of people, and they were standing right next to each other, all had masks on, holding like a Happy Thanksgiving sign or something. I'm like, could you imagine the difference if you took that picture, you post it on the internet, okay, and then you take the same photo except everyone has no mask on and they're 6 feet apart? I wonder what the reaction would be. I think that they've put so much emphasis on masks are the only thing that's going to really protect us, that people aren't social distancing as much, right? They're not hand sanitizing as much. They're not washing their hands as much because it's the mask. And, I remember somebody saying something along the lines of, this was months ago. This was like before the mask mandate came in, but they were talking about it. So it was probably June or something. And somebody goes, well, it'll be the easiest way to see compliance. And I was like, okay, like, let's, try not to be too conspiracy theorists, right? And now I'm like, yep, there's no way that they're not pushing that so far, because it's so easy to tell who, just right off the bat, who is going to comply, who is complying. I mean, when I went to vote, I was the only person not wearing a mask in a sea of 400 people.
Yep.
The only person. Nobody gave me a hard time. I still have had very good experiences going out in public without wearing a mask. And it was very sad. I talked to a friend yesterday, and he said, I was like, oh my gosh, people that are driving around with masks on, it's crazy. And he was like, yeah, it's funny is that I spend 8 hours a day with a mask on at work. And so there's been times there I've gone into my truck and I'm driving home, and I realized I had my mask on. And it's funny, I told him, I said, I'm literally the opposite. There will be times where I'm like, oh, I got to run into, Holiday or something because I got to get some gum or whatever, I got to get a drink or something. And I'll get in and I'm like, I look in, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Forgot.
I'm the only one not wearing a mask. And nobody has said anything to me. I've had good experiences, but it's like, that's not going to be my new normal. I refuse for that to be my new normal. Not when it's something that it has a survival rate of what it does.
Right.
I've honestly thought of this, like, what would happen? What would it look like? What would our society look like? What would everything, our function as a community look like if this was like 60% mortality rate? Like if this was an actual, like you talk about like Outbreak, the movie Outbreak, or even Contagion. I watched that the other day too for the second time. I'm like, oh, I want to watch this, see what it feels like now that something like this is happening. And it's like watching it, I'm going, they're not even wearing masks. Mm-hmm. In Contagion, if you watch that movie, watch it. It's funny because the mortality rate in that movie, I know it's a movie, is so low, right? Or not so low, it's very high. And they're not wearing masks out in public. Like, they're doing the social distancing, like they're locked in their houses.
Right.
They're not wearing masks when they're out and about. And so it's just, I wonder what it would feel like. Because if you didn't know any better, I keep thinking this in my head over every now and then I'll make it pop in my head where I'll say, if it wasn't for the news, would I even know there was anything happening?
Right.
And if you look out into the world, other than the masks, people are living their lives. People are at grocery stores, they're at Target, they're at, wherever. They're literally just doing their business. If it wasn't for the masks, you really wouldn't, I don't think, notice a difference.
Well, one of the things that, and this is something that I've been kind of curious as too. So our news over here just does nothing but cover what happens here. And they've been doing that for a very long time now. So what's it like in the Bahamas? What's it like in, Switzerland? What's it like in, many of these other countries that I would say have climates like ours? Obviously, the Bahamas would be opposite, but it's nice and warm. It's tropical. How's the COVID over there? Are people going out to the beach wearing a mask and a bathing suit? I mean, you see what I mean? And in Switzerland, it's very snowy. It's very cold. It's very similar to what our atmosphere is here, but you never hear of anything like that. Now, the one thing that you hear about is, oh, it's reoccurring in China and it's reoccurring in Japan and yada yada yada. My question on this whole mask thing is, I know that in the United States we've been really pushing the whole facial recognition thing, and I'm wondering how the masks affect facial recognition, and maybe it's some kind of a test for that, or maybe they're trying to correct. And this is going down a rabbit hole that I probably shouldn't go down, but China has always worn masks. Their pollution there is terrible, so the people always wore masks so that they could get somewhat fresh air.
Yeah.
But why has it happened so drastically here? Is free people in one of the only free countries, real free countries in the world, we're not adjusting to that very well. Being told we have to do something that we don't want to do. And,
well, I mean, but are we? I mean, really? If you look around, people are adjusting.
Yeah, well, no, I agree.
You know what I mean?
They don't like it.
No, I agree with that. But I'm just saying, like, if this is a true, like, experiment, and they're like, let's see how many people would wear a mask.
Yeah, how many can we force to do it? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it would be interesting. So that supposedly the crime stats have gone down, right? That's what they're saying. But I think in Anchorage, the murder rates have gone up. In the last 3 weeks, we've had 3 or 4 murders. They just had a 5-year-old kid that was killed in a house a couple days ago. They just released it. But, I don't think that the crime rates have so much gone down, is that they're not being reported, or they're not being able to, catch the people that are doing it because they're wearing masks.
Well, and a lot of the crime comes from drug activity.
Yeah.
And crackheads still need crack, even if there's
that's
COVID.
Fact. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like.
Well, what happened to our heroin overdoses?
Yeah.
What happened to, I seen something funny. It was a meme. They said, I seen 3 people under the overpass the other day giving each other, COVID shots or some stupid shit. Yeah. It was something funny, but, it's, we've devolved so far that shouldn't be a funny statement, but it's the truth. It's hilarious.
Think of Oregon, they drugs are legal now. Yep. Obviously, not like completely. You have like pounds and pounds of heroin, but enough to where if a druggie gets caught, there's no prosecution for the heroin or the crack or whatever.
Well, see, there's our solution for our homeless people. We'll just ship them to Oregon.
Well, but then you have it where you have the governor saying that if you see anybody having more than 8 people or whatever over at Thanksgiving, make sure you turn them in.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of world? I don't understand how people in Oregon aren't like freaking out.
Well, these are the same people.
What's happening here, and I go, I don't understand when people aren't freaking out either. But I mean, generally speaking, people aren't really freaking out about it, so it makes actual sense. But.
Keep in mind, Oregon, they don't let you pump your own gas.
I do remember that.
There's a I have a couple of friends that live in Oregon, Southern Oregon, and there was a city or a county or something that they passed an ordinance saying, yeah, now you can pump your own gas. And it's funny to see people come from Oregon, like Northern Oregon, and go to California and not have that luxury of someone pumping their own gas. They don't know how to do it. It's comical. I mean, it really is comical. I've seen it myself.
Yeah.
They don't know where the hell their gas tank is, or they don't know how to how to manipulate the gas pump. But if you they're going to allow people in a state that can't pump their own gas to use drugs.
Well, right, like you can't use straws.
That's California.
Well, even Oregon too. Like straws are not illegal, but I mean, like they don't offer them up. You have to ask for them. It's okay for a guy to have a sack of heroin. Well, it's so weird to me. Like it's just interesting. But a lot of people think that the war on drugs is a bust, right? It doesn't work.
Well, the reason it's a bust is because we could never stop the cartels and stuff from bringing shit over.
Exactly. Well, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's money to be made not just by the cartels but by government too.
Well, the CIA actually funds half of the friggin' poppy fields and shit over in Afghanistan. There's 100% proof of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the war on
Well,
drugs is not really a war on drugs.
Well, and it's like homelessness too. There's a lot of money to be made by government officials and whatnot when it comes to homelessness. It is a moneymaker. You think of all of the nonprofits and whatnot that are involved in the homelessness. It makes sense to not actually solve the problem, or at least let it be an ongoing one. If you think of
Right.
well, and that's the thing too, is like looking at San Francisco, areas of California. It's like that the homeless population is just overrunning the cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how much worse it's gotten in Anchorage. I grew up in Anchorage, so I lived in downtown Anchorage from the time I was 12 to 20 years old.
Right.
And and on 8th and Barrow. So I wasn't like downtown, but like Crack Cars was my cars. I still love that cars. I do. It's small. I know where everything is. But there's a different feel of the homeless population than it was back then. But there's you talk about the homeless population and you say, okay, how many of them are homeless that are actual homelessness where they just don't have a place to stay, but they're trying? People like my Pursuit of Happiness, right? That story. Great guy. He did what he needed to do. Yeah, he had to sleep in a bathroom with a son or whatever, but he kept going. He kept moving forward. He was hustling. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the vagrants and the drug addicts that I am supposed to feel bad for.
Right.
I'm supposed to feel compassion for them. And I have the same level of compassion that they do for the sidewalk that they just took a poop on or left all their trash on or whatnot. It's like, I don't know why I'm supposed to have more compassion for them than they have for themselves. Like that part doesn't make sense to me, but there's a lot of money to be made in it to keep it going. And having treatment centers or whatnot, it's like, okay, so what if they don't want to go?
Well, I it used to be, when I lived up here 10 years ago, it used to be illegal to be a vagrant out on the streets. You couldn't go around and you couldn't beg. You get thrown in jail for it. Even if it was for a day, you still get thrown in jail. You get your 3 hots and a cot and then you're done. And now, with, I think SB 91 eliminated that. And, they repealed some of it, but they didn't repeal all of it. I think the reason we have a vagrant problem is because of, things like SB 91. It's allowed it to happen. I think that the assembly needs to hold the assembly and the governor, honestly, need to start holding the native corporations accountable whenever they send us when they send us their people.
Well, and that was part of the where they the assembly said that there were racist comments.
I know.
And the problem with that is that it's a fair question. I've had multiple friends that are either married to Native people or Native who have told me, yes, this guy literally picked his dad out, sent him on a one-way ticket to Anchorage, and took over his home.
Yeah. Oh,
sent him in Anchorage.
I've got a kid that works for me I literally have a kid that works for me, good kid, nothing wrong with him, but his family was booted out of a village because the dad couldn't control himself. So the whole family got kicked out of the village and he got brought into Anchorage, and none of them have ever worked a normal job in their life. They've always done fishing and stuff like that. Yeah. And so, we're training this kid to work on machines, and he's a good kid. The third day he's there, he calls in sick because he thought he had gotten COVID. Well, I found out later, I told him, I said, I need a positive test. I found out later that his dad beat the crap out of him. Feel sorry for the kid. I'm like, hey, you still got your job and everything, but you need to tell me the truth. But he shows up and his whole cheekbone, his eye and everything else is so swollen shut, he can't see. And I mean, how do you help someone like that don't want to help themselves, don't understand that what's going on is wrong?
Well, and you have to have those kind of conversations. You have to have the real conversations about the problem, and that is part of the problem. You can't tell me it's not. I mean, you have these corporations that make millions upon millions of dollars. And I'm not saying this to be mean, but I'm like, how do they help?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a valid question. You know, you have the NAACP, right? You know, I can say, what does NAACP do for Black people? And everybody's fine with that question. You know, it's an organization to help Black people. Okay. You have the Essence Awards and things like that, specifically for Black people. It's a question that just needs to be asked and an answer needs to be given. If they're not doing anything, then they're not doing anything.
Right.
Okay. But is it fair to say maybe they should help? Probably.
Well, the thing is and this is why I don't understand the whole racist thing. So everybody in the United States understands that there's an issue in Alaska with the native corporations and the natives. I love, every native I've ever met, I've always liked them. They've always been pretty jovial. Yep. They've never had a grudge against me for being on their land. I've seen that argument a few times. But I don't have a problem with the natives. But what I have a problem with is the villages and the corporations not being held accountable on how to help them. You know, they it's like, in China and stuff like that, you steal, you get your hand cut off, or you do something like that. But here, instead of them, helping the people or, doing something to make them hold themselves accountable, they're like, oh, we'll just ship you to Anchorage. What the hell is that?
Yeah. There was an article that came out a few years ago about there was a guy that was molesting children in the villages, or in a village. And somebody in the comment section said they just need to send him on a one-way ticket to Anchorage. And like 12 people liked it. I'm like,
oh yeah, so let's give him more. Let's give him more targets.
I'm like, guys, this isn't like, it's the same thing with like, there's also an issue with, and this is off topic completely, but dogs. If you pay attention to animal rescue pages and stuff, they'll constantly be putting out posts about village dogs coming in from the village that need puppies that need homes, because they don't fix the dogs in the villages and they just run around impregnating other dogs, and then they have 20 puppies, and there's 500 people in the town and nobody else needs a puppy, so they're like, we have these puppies. I'm like, why not just fix the dogs? Like, somebody send a vet there to fix the dogs once a month. Like, why are we, it's like, but nobody talks about that problem, that there's a root to this problem. And the root is that they're not fixing their dogs. Like, fix the root. And that's the thing I feel about, like, the homeless population or the vagrants. It's like, let's just herd them into a treatment center. What if they don't want to go to treatment centers?
Well, okay, so here's the thing I want you to look for is, like, as far as the future goes with the Native Corps. So, with Trump getting out of there and with a bunch of the economy going to crap, okay, the native corporations are not going to make the money that they're making now. So I look to the future as far as you see what it's like now when the economy's somewhat okay. What's going to happen with those people once the economy literally crashes and there's no more money? And these people are not living, they're not getting their paychecks once a month or whatever. And I know that there's only certain corporations that their people get paid well. But at the same time, those people that are not getting paid well, I'll give you an example. I sold a truck to somebody up here years and years and years ago, and I think I was asking like $9,000 for it. And one of the girls that was in this family decided to buy her husband this truck, and they flew. They were up on the slope. They actually drove down they flew down to a certain place and then they drove the rest of the way. They drove down in a Toyota Tacoma, 6 people. Okay, Toyota Tacoma is pretty small. They drove down with 6 people in this Toyota truck. And they bought, like, I had a 4-door lifted Tahoe, so it was a nice truck. But, these people spend money faster than they get it. They drove down with cash, $9,000 cash, to get this guy, basically buy a Christmas present or something for this guy. And within 3 weeks of him buying it, he had wrecked it. And he called up looking for more parts for it. And I'm like, man, I don't know what to tell you. I can guide you, but, why'd you wreck it? Oh, got to drinking one night and I hit a tree. Okay. Nothing I can do. I can point you in the right direction, whatever. But the point is, we're not fixing the problem they're giving them money because they're native, and this is not a racist statement; it's a true statement. They're giving them money because they're native. They belong to a certain native corporation. Once that money's gone, how are these people going to live? How are they going to survive? How are they going to? They're going to, are they going to start doing bad things? They're going to start drinking. They're going to start doing whatever and get shipped to Anchorage. Yeah. It's going to exacerbate the problem that we already have here. And I don't think that the assembly's fully thought it out. Maybe they have.
Well, and I think it kind of goes back to the homeless shelter, or the shelters and the treatment centers, and then being able to work it in a way that is legal to use the CARES Act money to purchase the hotels. And I think that kind of speaks volumes to how corrupt government can get, right? Because these people were homeless and on the streets way before COVID happened.
Oh, I know.
And that money was supposed to be for COVID. And the fact that you're able to manipulate it and twist the truth so that you can purchase those buildings and spend millions of dollars of money that was supposed to go for COVID relief on a pre-existing problem is crazy to me, And it's funny because I think of it, and like I said, I'm newer to this, and I think of it, I'm like, this is the type of stuff that I hear stories about from people. Oh, remember him? He used to be the guy that da 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 da, and I'm like, really? Wow, that's crazy. And now I'm like, I'm living it. Like, in a couple years, it'll be, remember when they passed the CARES Act money to buy that building or whatever? And I'm going to be like, it's going to be like hate fire all over again. But it's insane that they were able to do that. And that's where I feel like there's a much bigger issue than just it being COVID and it just being restrictions and lockdowns and whatever we want to call everything that's happening to us. It is much bigger than that. And I remember talking to you about, maybe we need to push for the assembly to be partisan, okay? And you have 5 conservatives, you have 5 liberals, and then you have 2 undeclared or whatever, Because at this point, I mean, really, even if, and I'm being truthful here, even if in a couple years we flip the assembly and they're conservative, we're just going to piss off the liberals. And then the liberals are going to be all up in the assembly meetings, and we're still going to have to be in the assembly meetings.
It's going to be one giant circle jerk. I mean, the thing is with politics, and this is something I've always heard, and I've talked to folks that have been doing this for a long time, like William Topol and other people that have been in it a long time, is basically it's like a giant grandfather clock, right? You have this big arm that just swings back and forth, and right now it's up here on the high side for the liberals. And eventually that is going to swing back, and then we're going to end up taking it back over. And the reason I say that, and I if you look at the primaries and how good we did in the primaries, back in April or whatever it was, you can tell that the people of Anchorage and the people of Alaska are really sick of seeing the stuff that's going on. I think that this, in some way, is a last-ditch effort for them to continue to hold on to power. If you look at the votes and everything that came in for Trump, we're obviously still a red state. We still had more people that voted for Trump than voted for Biden. And I actually think it was a lot more than what they're saying, but whatever. And if you look at who won in the state elections and stuff for Juneau, we did pretty damn well with who ran. Thank God that LaFrance didn't get in there. So it would have been worse. But we did pretty good. I think the people are starting to speak up, and I think here's the thing. I went out and I talked to Paul Berger earlier tonight, and I think he's right on this part of it. We have to find a way, whether it's garage meetings I mentioned at one point, or we have a month where I'm not going to be working, so I'm going to be pushing even harder than what I have. We have a month to get people together. And I know that there's a lot of conservatives out there that are not going to be working. They're not going to be working the restaurants. They're not going to be, doing the same stuff. And many of them are going to be trying to find other jobs. Mm-hmm. But we are going to have a month of not working to where we have a chance to start organizing. And if people don't realize that month can be used for that. And we need to start showing up at the assembly. We need to start pushing back on the community council meetings. We have to flood these things. And we have to, I don't know how you give the ones that are not speaking up enough courage to actually do so. I don't know how we do that and how that looks, but we need to figure something out because we need a lot more people on there. We need to outnumber the ones that are on there kissing their butts.
Well, I feel like a lot of people maybe are feeling like nothing's working.
I know.
Like, you know, we're it's gotten worse. Okay. And what's interesting to me is that I don't think people truly understand how much progress we all have made. You know, Open Alaska, Save Anchorage, Taking Back Anchorage, Alaskans for Constitutional Rights, like all together working. You know, they recognize us. Mm-hmm. Okay. If it, you know, and even though there's not, we're not making any real change, they feel us. They feel our presence. They know who we are, even if they don't necessarily know. I mean, I think today in the meeting, now they know who Sarah Boyer is. You know, but like, there's things that are happening that are changing. The problem that is happening is that they're doubling down.
Yeah.
Is they're digging their heels in. I mean, if you talk about when you know, Austin took over the mayor role, okay?
Oh yeah.
Her first, within like 30 minutes, she tried kicking Rosa out of the assembly meeting.
Yep.
I mean,
I wish I'd have been there that night. Oh, I'd have been.
So you know, I mean, we're making a statement. Things are, you know, starting to shift. It's just that it's that we're on the side that is fighting for freedom, and we're going up against a government that is mostly wanting to lock us down and is caring about a small population of people to protect.
Right.
You know, and that's our problem. And I think that people just don't think nothing's working. You know, these protests aren't doing anything. People, I do believe that when people see us out there, and they see me even today when we were at the Trump rally, okay, whether or not you agree with Trump or you like him or not, there was a bunch of people honking, screaming, "Go Trump!" Like, people see that, and it makes them fight more.
Right.
And maybe we're not seeing them talk to, you know, email somebody. Maybe we're not seeing them do something. And not just Trump, but like if we're doing any kind of rally or any kind of protest, like I think those type of things actually inspire people to, well, how can I help?
Right.
How can I do something? You know what I mean?
Well, and I said this a while back to you. I think when you get together and you're hanging around people that you like, you care for, that you think alike, you know, if you're thinking alike, it becomes infectious. But it only does that to a certain point. And what ends up happening is, and I've said this before too, is we kind of get rally fatigue. And what ends up happening, especially in the wintertime here, because it's so cold and you know, the weather sucks, and you know, everybody has that depression thing that kind of kicks in a little bit in the wintertime. That everyone gets their cabin fever. But here's the thing. When you show up, when anyone shows up at the assembly, and we get there and other people see you, and I've seen countless people. The problem is it's always the 10 people. It's always the same 10 or 12 people. Me, you, Rosa, I can almost name them off the top of my head, right?
Julie, Brittany.
Yep. The same people
Jennifer,
are always there.
Yeah.
We hardly ever get any new people.
Dustin Darden.
If Dustin Darden, that's a whole new story. But if the other people were to take the time, and trust me, I have spoken to more people than I can count. Hey, you need to go to the assembly today.
Yeah.
You know, I might, for every 10 people you talk to, you might get 2. And it's the fact of it. But here's the deal. If those people if anybody that's on Taking Back, Save Anchorage, Open Alaska, or any of the other sites were to show up and actually hang out and see and meet us and hang out with us for a little bit, they would understand that there is hope. And hope is huge, okay? It's like, it's a movie quote, you can't kill an idea. It's the truth. You can't kill an idea. You can arrest somebody that has the idea, but you can't kill it if it passes on.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with ideas that work. We have to come up with ideas that do make some change. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of things that we're finding things out now. So you and Rosa have had a chance to write up a resolution. You've learned that by going to these things. I've written up a resolution because I've learned and I've caught someone's attention and they like the idea. Paul's done the same thing. The thing is, people that are involved are getting more involved. They're getting deeper into it.
Yeah.
And they're finding out more information than what they knew. And I think that's part of the problem. And I think our class that we did a couple months ago is hugely important because we can fill people in on the process. And I think a lot of times people don't show up to these things because they don't understand the process.
Yeah. Well, and they're scared and they're nervous and
intimidated.
And well, to be honest, like I don't like the whole going and doing a testimony at the assembly because it's on video. And, there's things like I don't necessarily want my work to see that.
Right.
1,000%. And so there's that. And that is a concern. And it's unfortunate because if it was the opposite, nobody would have a problem.
Right.
That's what we're up against. We're on the side of society that is part of the people that get canceled, I mean, truthfully, I mean, there's a whole thing about we need to figure out who the Trump supporters are so that we can, make a list of them. It's like, why? Like, where did we get here? But I do think, like you said, going to the assembly meetings. But I think even more important, I actually would rather people put their energy in the community council meetings than assembly meetings. And the reason is that it's one time a month, okay, and it's like an hour to 2 hours, and you could dip out early if you needed to. Everybody can commit 2 hours a month. I mean, that's part of the thing too that I feel like I need to do my part is that I have no kids. I don't have any husband or boyfriend or anybody really stealing my time, and so it's like I have a job, and I feel for people that are having to struggle not working and everything, and so I'm trying to do what I can do to help the cause. But community council meetings, that was the very first thing I realized very quickly in participating in them, is that this is where the ideas start.
Yep.
The ideas to buy the hotels started at community council meetings, you guys. So what happened was it started as a conversation at a community council meeting, and then it was like, okay, we hear your feedback, people. So they're only hearing these, 10 people that all are like, this is a great idea. And nobody was there to go, actually, that's a horrible idea. I don't think you should do that.
Right.
And so then it started spitballing and it gained momentum. And then that's when we heard about it, okay, in July or whatever.
It was already too late.
We were like, what? And it actually, that's the thing that irritates me too, is that them, like you saying it's too late, I don't think it was ever too late. I think that if I was on the assembly, and this is another thing I actually wanted to hit on too, is that we need to be present on the assembly meet. We need to have conservatives on the assembly. We need to have conservatives in the community council meetings. But I also think that, there's going to be opportunities where we're in the position of saying, voting yes or no on something that maybe would, we'd be in the position of going, well, crap, I have 70% of people saying that they don't want this, but this is actually something that my conservative people want to happen. Mm-hmm. What do I do? And so, I mean, that's going to eventually happen at some point. Now, the fact that they still passed through, they did it, even though 70%, I don't necessarily think they understand how big of a FU that was to people. I really don't. And then they added on the cherry, okay, that we were all racist and we were rioters and we should, not be allowed to go in the chambers. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really what happened. And I think that kind of started a fire with a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are still upset and they're, go online and they do their rants on the different groups and they like and they comment and stuff, but they are not showing up. And I don't know how to like convince people to do that. And and I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. I mean, like, do I want to go to an assembly meeting every 2 weeks and stay there for 6 hours? No, I don't. You know, like, but like we have to do that at some level. And even if it's not every assembly meeting you go to, you know, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to one a month, you know, and then maybe I'll get my friend to go, or maybe it's something where you convince a friend to go. Like, you know, even some of my family and friends, you know, they feel the same way I feel, but are they at any community council meetings? No. Are they at any assembly meetings? No. Like, they're not doing it either. And it's like, at some point, you guys, we have to like actually show up and do stuff.
Right.
We can't just sit on our bums complaining about it. Like, we have to actually do the work.
So
sometimes the work is sitting in a room for 4 hours.
So listening to you, and I kind of got an idea here in my head, and I'm going to run it by you real quick. So listening to you, you're 100% spot on as far as going to the assembly and the community council meetings and everything else. So here's something I'll propose. And I think that we have enough and we know enough people that I think that we can make this work. I think what we need to do is we need to come up with a commission. And the commission would be, we need to get, say, 8 to 10 people involved in this. And this is just an idea, so it could probably use some work. But we get 8 to 10 people. We get it, as many people as we can. We get their emails. The one big thing that I know that happens is people have their lives, right? They most of them have busy lives. They have a lot of things going on. Now, if we had a way to remind everybody every night that we have a community council meeting, or that there's some kind of an event. Now, Paul does something where he posts up the community councils every week, and that's helpful. But at the same time, not everybody's on Facebook all the time.
Well, and not everybody's on Facebook, but those tend to be the like least most engaged posts.
Right. So what I'm saying is, I think we get a commission. We get people to sign up and give us their emails. We create an email list. And that email list, what we do is we have someone that is retired, somebody that's not doing anything. Maybe Bill Topol can do this. I don't know. But we use that email list and we send it out to, here's the thing, and this is the one thing that I actually like about the community council meetings. You can attend any of them you want. Yeah. You can attend every one of them if you want to. Yep. As a guest, or, you know, they, at least mine, they ask you if you're a member of the community council or if you're just a guest. Yeah. And the thing is that people don't get is, like with mine and Abbott Loop, the last 2 that I've been on, we've actually had 4 separate assembly members in attendance. I've had Meg Zalatel, I've had Felix Rivera, I've had John Weddleton, and I've had...
interesting.
Yeah, I've had, and it's weird that they're all here. The thing is, and people don't get, is the south side of Anchorage is generally conservative. And we don't hardly have any real conservative assembly members attending. But we need to outnumber them is the whole goal. And I think having a commission or something that can get the emails of everybody, maybe we need to put up a post or something like that and collect them. But, you know, every time that there's a community council meeting, we can look it up as far as what Paul's doing and send out, hey, this community council meeting, here's the Zoom link, and give it to them. Yeah. And the thing I think we're going to have to do is we're going to have to poke and prod a little bit. Yeah. We've been trying to do that through Facebook posts. I did it a couple days ago. And the problem is not everybody's always on Facebook. And Alaska in general is bad about being on Facebook all the time.
Well, and I feel like, okay, I'm going to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer here. A little bit. And I love my people. I love everybody that's in this fight. You know, and I'm not trying to be a butthead, but to a certain degree, it's like what Rosa said, like, I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink it. Right. Right. And, you know, to a certain degree, it's like the tools are out there. Like, you can make the decision of going, okay, I have to go to Facebook to see what events are happening this week. I have to go to Facebook to see when my community can't. Like, people can, it's not like people are ding-dongs. Like, they know how to look stuff up. It's just they're not making an effort to do it all the way. Well, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying, you know, but I also feel like partially you are right in the sense of, like, okay, not everybody knew. I hear that all the time. I didn't even know this was happening. It's like, okay, go to the events section of the page. Like, go click on events. It's like right there at the top. Like, it's there. Like, I can tell people where to go, but I can't make them go. I can't make them go to that section. So,
well, here's the thing that and you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I agree with you on most of it. The problem that I see now with what you said, the younger people shouldn't have any problem doing some of this stuff. The older folks, maybe, and not necessarily Bill or some of the other people that we know, but keep in mind, I didn't know how to. I'm techie. I mean, I love my tech. I love playing around. I mean, obviously, I'm doing this kind of stuff, so I love my tech. But at the same time, getting some of the definitions and things like that of some of the stuff that the assembly had, I had no idea how to look them up.
Oh yeah.
I actually had to ask one of the assembly members, "Hey, where do I find this?" Yeah. And it was, but they don't volunteer that. You have to ask.
Well, and I think that's I think my point too is like if anybody listening ever has questions or like is scared or anything, like reach out to one of us. Like I am generally
we want you involved.
Yes, and I am like a super nice person.
I don't know about that.
No, I am. Damn it.
No, Sarah's cool. I wouldn't hang out with her, and I wouldn't do the stuff that we've been doing if I didn't think she was 100% patriot and 100% exactly what this city needs. So,
but like definitely like reach out, ask questions, and there's other ways to be involved that you don't have to. If you can't go to an assembly meeting, if you can't go, whoa, I've dropped my mic. If you can't go to,
I can still hear you.
A community council meeting, like you can't physically be there. There's so many other things. You can be somebody that goes through the agenda and tries to figure out what the hell they're trying to do now, right? You can be surfing the Muni website and looking at, press releases. Like there's so much. That is one thing I've noticed too, is there's so much that they try to do and pass that it's like, how do you keep up?
Well, I think
so we need people like that too, just as much as we need people at the assembly meeting and at the community council meeting. We need people in the background, looking things up and trying to navigate.
I think that they intentionally throw so much at us so that we can't. They're hoping that if they throw 10 things at us, that they get to slip 4 through.
Yeah.
And we have to be vigilant with it. We got to continue to stay on it. And we need all kinds of different people. We need people that'll run. We need people that'll look up the different resolutions and AOs, and we need people that will help round people up. And I mean, there's I don't want to kind of toot our own horn, but we're me, you, and Rosa, and all these other people in their specific areas. We're basically kind of community organizers. We're trying to get our community involved. I hate to say it, but we're a bunch of Obamas. That's how he started.
Well, I feel
not to compare us to that, but
we're definitely. I mean, it's not. I'm an extroverted introvert. I love talking to people, but I prefer.
That sounds
alone.
Kinky.
I know, right? But like I'm not somebody that necessarily. I don't feel super comfortable testifying. I don't feel comfortable like just walking up to somebody and starting a conversation. Like I'm pushing myself outside of my comfort zone too, and I've never been disappointed in the outcome. I haven't been let down by what has come from me doing it. So I encourage people to try to kind of get outside of their comfort zone. And I know there's a lot of people that are scared to be on camera, and I'm there with you. I get it. But there's other ways. There's other ways that you can get involved.
Well, I think that
show your presence.
I think it's good to remind other people out there that there are people that are like you. And, we've had some people that have kind of gone to the assembly and spoke up for the first time. Marie and her husband, Marie Caswell and her husband, they've been there a couple times and they've done a great job speaking. Yes. And the thing is if you go and you do speak, you're going to improve every time you go.
Oh yeah.
You're not going. It's not something. The thing is it's not a life or death situation. I mean, we want you there to speak, but the hardest part about speaking in public is You don't want to sound stupid. You don't want to sound uneducated. You don't want to sound this, whatever. The thing is you can kind of go there and almost go on emotion. And I'll tell you the perfect person for that is Rosa. Rosa goes in there and rocks it every time she goes up there because she's letting her heart speak. She's letting her mind speak too, but she's letting her heart do the talking.
Yeah.
And that's why she's I love to listen to Rosa talk. Yeah. And I try and do it a little bit more cerebral, I guess. I want to try and show them, listen, this is your hypocrisy. This is why we're up against you, and this is exactly why what you're doing is really stupid. And everybody's got their own method of doing it. I don't like reading anything off pages because my vision sucks and I get stuck. I'm better off the cuff. And everybody's got their own style of doing it. But the thing is, and you don't have to go to the assembly and speak. Being there and being in the audience is a huge visual for them, because if they don't know what side you're on, they're going to be trying to play to you. And I'll give you an example of that. So Chris Constant came up to me and my wife one night. We were the only ones left in there. I was kind of shocked. I was like, what the hell do you want, kind of thing. And he came up to me and he actually spoke to me with some intelligence and with respect. But it's because I had called him out on a certain thing that they had done. They'd called somebody racist, and I was trying to throw it back at them. And me and him had a back and forth a little bit. So anytime you go into the assembly, the one thing I think that you should at least try to get, is get them to get someone in the assembly, I don't care who it is, to ask you a question about what it is you're saying. So think about what you're going to say, go up there and say it, but anticipate getting a question asked. I've had my ass handed to me once or twice. I've actually had some good questions sent to me from Weddleton and Constant and a few others. But the whole goal with going in there is to get them to think more like us.
Well, and I think that, there was a time where Amber Witcher's son went up.
Oh, that was awesome.
And it was awesome, right? Well, then, like the next day, or it was where we had a back-to-back assembly meeting, or it was like 1 week later or something, there was a little girl who was praising them. Okay? And somebody, I think it was, gosh, I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the assembly members we don't like, was like, hey, by the way, we have a, kid intern assembly position situation. And I'm like, why didn't they offer this to Amber's son who went up here? So the clerk was walking by and I asked her, I said, hey, there was the little boy that came up here and testified yesterday and nobody mentioned anything about this. Why is that? Even though they're saying it to her. And she said, oh, it's just the age thing. You have to be at least blah, blah. And Amber's son was much younger. And I was like, okay, thank you. But just pointing that out shows them that they were paying attention. And then there was another time where I think it was the clerk that came up, and me and Rosa asked her why this was a special meeting and we're not able to testify on the opening. Whatever. We had a conversation with her, and she stumbled over her words, and we made her uncomfortable, and you could tell. And again, you don't have to be on camera, but having that conversation, I think, shows them like, okay, these people are paying attention.
Right.
This isn't business as usual, how it's been before.
We're not railroading them.
Yeah. People are paying attention, and they're on notice, and so we are making differences, even if it doesn't feel like we are making differences, but we need to continue, and we need more people showing up, because at the end of the day, the same 15 people show up, it's 15 people they're up against, and they're like, whatever, why should we think twice about the decision we make if it's 15 crazy loony people?
Right.
But if you have 15 new people every time, okay, that's when it starts. They start kind of, maybe we need to think about this a little bit more. Not saying it's going to do everything. Not going to say that they're going to stop, being, crazy. But it could help, and it's at least showing that we are paying attention.
Well, and I think that we need to get with disclosures and everything else. This is something I wanted to say before we get done. We've been on for 2 hours, by the way. I enjoy talking to you, Sarah, because we can kind of go down some rabbit holes and still come out, somewhat sane.
Yeah.
But I think that every person is going to get laid off for this month. Every person that's in a business, James Moody comes to mind with the Bear Paw. They're going to be closed down, and they're only going to be able to do, pickup service kind of stuff. Every restaurant, every service industry job, every job that's deemed non-essential and has shut down, I think that the employees from those businesses need to motivate their bosses. And maybe some of these businesses want to shut down. I don't know. But I think that the employees that are there that really want to work, they need to go after their bosses and get their bosses to get involved. And I'll give you an example of somebody that is in the same industry that I'm in, and I cannot get him to show up to do anything. He'll go to his community council stuff, but he won't do anything above and beyond that. And it drives me nuts because, so Centerball, the owner of Centerball, Chris Clapper, and I love the guy to death. He's a really good friend. I've known him for 15 years. Chris, if you're seeing this, I'm sure you will because you're on my Facebook page. I love you to death, buddy. But you need to start showing up at the assembly because your business is just as much at risk as ours is. And you're an intelligent guy. You've been in business for years. You need, and Ty needs to show up. And yeah, I know that's probably not going to listen to us. But having your face there, you've been a staple in this city for 50 freaking years. Your butts need to be in those seats, and you need to be pushing back like we are. You've given me praise for that, and I'm telling you right now that you need to do it too. Okay?
I have a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I work Monday through Friday. I've been very fortunate where I haven't missed a paycheck, so I can't do a lot of groundwork Monday through Friday, But what if we did kind of go, like, even if it's a Saturday or something, I would be willing, or if anybody else wants to, but they go out to these businesses and say, look, this is the next assembly meeting, okay? The first hour of each assembly meeting is for where you can talk about anything.
Yep.
And you can go up and testify. And we facilitate it to where if there's business owners that are there that want to talk to them and say, look, you're screwing with my livelihood, that we push them to the front, and we say, hey, these are people that really need to speak.
Right. No, I agree with that. I think it's a good idea.
Like, something like that. And they're not needing to dedicate hours upon hours, but maybe an hour of their life where they're waiting to speak, and maybe not just business owners, but also the staff. So, we could probably do up like a flyer or something and basically, like, if you go and pick up food, if you order something from, say, Bear Paw or something, you go and pick it up, you go, hey, by the way, everything that's happening with the city, like, there are assembly meetings, we would love for you to come and testify and let them know how crappy this is that's happening. Like, if you guys have anybody, if you please share this with your fellow staff, anybody is interested, please reach out to me and give them my phone number or your phone number, whoever's phone number. And then we kind of facilitate that. And because I do think that, like you said, not everyone knows necessarily about how it works. They just know they're getting screwed over. And they're like, well, I don't know what to do, whatever. But maybe if we give them a little bit motivation, even if we talk to, 20 people, like you said, you get 2, okay?
Right.
That's still 2 extra people that are telling the assembly, look, I can't pay my rent because you've decided that restaurants are non-essential and Target curtain shopping is. I know I keep bringing up curtain shopping.
Well,
it drives me crazy.
I think that we need to. Here's the thing, and I think a lot of people in Anchorage. So politics in Anchorage is kind of new. It's not something that has always been in your face like it is now. And this has always been kind of a lower 48 kind of process and kind of thing. And one of the reasons I moved back up to Anchorage is to get out of the politics, and it's like a fire. You step out of it and you get right back in. But I think that having the business owners and having the people that are paying the big taxes and that kind of stuff, that basically pay the salary of the muni, I think having them be there and seeing the disregard for the citizens of town. you know, and the environment that we're dealing with every time we go in there, because it literally, when you go in there, it's almost like, this is the way I kind of picture it. When we go in there, the sun comes out, is how I kind of envision it. When we're not there, it's like cloudy and rainy and just crappy. I think that, you know, we're the light that's shining that keeps, you know, the information coming.
You remember the gentleman, the chiropractic doctor?
Yep.
And I could not believe, and I was shocked.
Oh, with what Constant and what's her name did?
Yeah. Constant LaFrance. I could not believe, and that is the type of behavior, and that's what when I do testify, and it's not even going to be anything like, you guys suck. I want to let them know how bad that was.
Mm-hmm.
That was so disrespectful to somebody, only because he's telling you that what you're doing is wrong. You're going to treat one of your community members that way, and nothing. And again, you're not getting fired for that. If I were to,
there's no recourse. Yeah, there's no recourse.
Exactly. If I were to have talked to one of my staff member like that when I was manager, I would have been written up.
Yep. Or fired.
Easy, quick. And the fact that nothing would have happened, nothing's going to happen to them for doing that, is crazy. And they need to understand that. Like, you can't treat people like that and then expect them to not think you're a bunch of assholes.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Well, and I think that, you know, I've said it before, I think that they want us to think that. I think that they want us to go in there militant. I think that they want us to go in there with
they want to make us look crazy.
Yeah, they don't want us going in there with cool heads. They want us to go in there looking like we're just going to go in there and set the place on fire.
Yeah, and we're these crazy people.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, is we outnumber them in the city. I mean, we really outnumber them in the city. The thing is we have to prove that we outnumber them in the city. They don't believe it. So, you know, and now with them shutting down and not allowing as many people in there, it's going to be that much harder.
I know. I wonder how they're going to do the extra social distancing.
Oh, so they'll probably have trash bags or some stupid crap over the seats.
Over the seats, which is so stupid, again, because it's like the Target parking lot. I know, me and Target, right? Target probably hates me. But Target parking lot was like 80% full. And not one person was waiting outside to be let in.
But Costco's the same way. I mean, you know, Costco, I've been there to pick up different meds and everything else. You go in there, and this is something I didn't even know, but they have and I actually kind of liked that Costco did this. I didn't like it that day because I got screwed, but they have an hour in the morning where they only allow first responders in there. I like that.
That is cool.
That's pretty cool. So, you know, they wouldn't even let me go to the pharmacy.
Yeah.
I got there at like 9 to 10.
And I don't mind that kind of stuff. And like, whatever happened to that, where they shut down that's what I think irritates me the most, is it for the last 8 months, it's been stay home, protect the vulnerable. And it's like, why don't the vulnerable stay home?
Buy toilet paper.
You know what I mean? Like, we're catering 85% of our population to 15% of our population.
Well, this is the only time in history, Sarah. This is the only time in history that we have, what's the word I want to use? That we've handicapped the healthy. We're literally handicapping the healthy. I mean, you know, to make more sick people.
You're quarantining the healthy people. Well, that's the thing is I posted that on one of the KTU or ADN, and everyone missed my point. Not everyone. There are people that like the comment. But it's like, my point is that all they've tried doing is locking down healthy people.
Yeah.
You're banging your head against the wall, government. Try something else. What's your plan B? What's your plan C? It reminds me of Armageddon, the movie Armageddon, when he's like, wait, this is what Bruce Willis is like, this is your plan? These 8 Boy Scouts are your plan? And all the resources the United States government has, this is your plan,
right?
Is to send a bunch of cowboys up into space. Like, that's what I feel like they're doing, is they're like, well, let's just tell everyone to stay home. And they're expecting people to stay home. Meanwhile, people are not completely idiot.
No.
are not completely stupid. They're seeing looting and rioting happening down in the States, and nothing's happening with that.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing George Floyd gets 14 funerals. Meanwhile, their Aunt Becky can't get one because it's too dangerous.
Well, you know, on Thursday we had a funeral for my pet turkey, just so that I could have people over.
That's very nice.
No, so so there was a question that actually got asked to Felix. He didn't answer, and I thought this was a good question. And Christy,
he didn't answer a lot of questions.
Oh, I know. He bounced around a bunch of them.
Actually, don't even think he answered any of them. That's a good question, but I have no idea.
Yeah, right. Christy from my thing asked him a good question as far as
yes, she did.
What is the exemption for someone who's already got COVID?
Yep.
No answer. Zero answer. Because they have got no idea what the hell to do. I'm telling you right now that most of this crap that's going around is them guessing. They've got no idea. The CDC, I don't know if you've been doing anything on the CDC, but the CDC printed something up that got sent to me. I looked it up actually on their website. It's the truth. This isn't just propaganda or nothing like that. The CDC is now talking about camps for people that don't want to mask up and all this other crap.
Are we?
The CDC is doing this. Now, whether or not, all I got to say is I hope that whenever they come to my house, I hope they're bulletproof. Because I will not go into any camps. And this isn't going down a rabbit hole. This is actually on the CDC's website where they're talking about mitigation and all this other kind of crap.
And I don't understand how you can't, as a human being, not go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is a virus that has a 99% survival rate, and you guys want to do this? I just don't get it.
Well,
it's brainwashing is complete.
The thing is they, the information, you got to look for it a little bit, but the information's out there on all the numbers. So now they're blaming the Valley for not reporting a whole bunch of different COVID cases. And there's like 1,600 of them that they didn't report. So expect a huge spike here coming soon. And they're blaming the Valley on this whenever the state or the locals should have been involved in that from the get-go. I've noticed that the Felix and the Assembly like to dump on the governor on a whole bunch of crap. Did you hear that tonight?
Yes. They've done that multiple times. There was a representative from the state that came and testified once. And it was like 4 of them popped up. They're like, oh, I'm really glad that you brought this up because, the state really could be helping more than they are and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, you guys, stop it. Stop it. It's like reminds me of, a girl that cheats on her boyfriend or something, right? And then convinces her boyfriend that, well, if it wasn't for you being at work so much, I wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? That's what it reminds me of. Like, no, the problem still is that you cheated on him.
Well, the thing
is still that you're misappropriating funds.
Well, look, Dunleavy doesn't have any say on what happens in Anchorage. At least they don't think he does. But yet they're willing to dump on him, saying that he's not giving them the money. Bullshit.
Yeah.
It's they have completely spent the money that the feds gave him and told him not to spend it on the certain things that they spend it on, and whatever. So. Anyway, kiddo, I think we've been on for like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Well, I know. I was going to look and see how many daily tests. How many total tests we've given as this for the state. Hold on just a second. I'm adding it up on my Excel spreadsheet. Give me just a few seconds, because here's another thing that I don't understand why they're not doing this. That you've tested, I know it's been it's over 800,000 tests. Now I know there are duplicates. I'm not an idiot. Okay, multiple people are getting tested, or people are getting tested multiple times. Okay, I understand that. However, there's probably out of 800,000 tests, there's probably 400 unique at the very minimum. Right. I don't think it's double is that. There's probably 400 unique tests. Why can you not change your approach due to the data based off of those 400 tests?
Right.
So 100 Okay, wait a minute. I don't know if this is right. Some. Okay, that's not right. I'm gonna look it up later. I know we're on too much, but that did the spreadsheet wasn't, I don't think, the right one. But I know it's well over 800,000 tests. Okay, and it's like you're still trying to create a answer to the problem or a solution to the problem based off of the same assumptions you made 8 months ago.
Right.
Like, you now have all this data you can look at, and you can go, okay, based off of these tests that we've given, our positivity rate is here, or our this is here, and okay, we have this many people that have had to go to the hospital. Okay, but out of those people that had to go to the hospital, how many of those people stayed in the hospital?
Right.
Because even you got discharged within a few hours, right?
Yeah, I was there for about 8. Yeah.
Yeah, they gave you what they needed to give you, and they discharged you, which means that they were happy with letting you go. They knew, okay, no, we've looked at him, he's good, he needs this shit, and then he can go on his way. Okay? So based off of the data that you have on 800,000 tests, or let's say 400,000 unique ones, why have you not changed your approach at all and said, okay, so what we do know is that, yes, people die from this, but who's dying?
Right.
But they don't even let us know that. That's what kills me too, is that out of these tests, the 725 positive tests, it's doomsday. It's those 725 positive tests that we have this day. That means that every single one of them are super sick, and that means that they're giving it to 400 people. I mean, they're just so negative about it. And
well,
I just...
I agree. Now, here's the thing that irritates me, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit tonight with Felix. Is, they said they've lost control of the contract tracing. They can't tell where people been, who they've been around, and where, all that kind of crap. And that's all bullshit. And I'll tell you why. So when Angela got sick, I volunteered that information to the testing facility that called us and everything to check on us. I volunteered that stuff, and they didn't even want it. So them losing control of that is on them. Not on us, not on the people.
Well, and that's what kills me too, is that they want to talk about they talk about contact tracing for so long, right? They don't unless you're going to contact trace at every place anyone goes to. It's bullshit.
Yep.
It shouldn't matter.
Well, and I've got sheets and sheets and sheets and sheets, and I've probably got 4 months worth of sheets that I've had people sign. They have not one time come in to look at those. Now,
serious?
No, I'm not. I'm dead serious. I've got a whole fucking folder of crap that's been signed all the way through. Every single day we put out a new page. Now, and that was not my idea, by the way. Anyway, so here's the one thing that I want to mention, and so everybody knows, or at least the doctors and the nurses and things like that, they know what they're giving the patients and how they're healing and stuff like that. The death rate has gone down. It hasn't gone up. It's gone down. And they've found a way to several different ways on how to fix people.
They never talk about that.
No, they haven't. But this is where I'm going to go with this, and I may end up using this next time I talk in the assembly. So everything that they're doing is, and I mean everything that they're doing, is after the fact. It's not before the fact. It's after the fact. They're not doing anything preemptive. They're not doing any hey, you know what, maybe you need to come in and get a physical, and we can give you some drugs in case you get something. They're doing everything after the fact, right? They're waiting for someone to get sick before they fix them.
Yep.
And meanwhile, you had Trump in there, and he was touting hydroxychloroquine and everything else, and doctors are willing to.
He was an idiot. What an idiot.
Well, there's doctors out there that are willing to prescribe it. I have some. I didn't use it because I didn't get it started soon enough, so I wasn't going to risk it. But there's drugs out there that can help prevent it and help mitigate the symptoms once you do get it. And the thing is instead of us being behind the 8 ball and having the hospitals full, why don't the people that have underlying symptoms go get seen before they get this crap and be prepared for it? That's the one thing that the assembly is not bringing up. They would rather wait until people get sick and we fill up the hospital. which honestly I don't think is actually fully happening anyway. They put out another fear scenario by getting that refrigeration truck, which is there, by the way. I did see it when I was there with Angela.
Well, they're not gonna
It's not being used yet.
Well, of course it's not being used yet. It's just so you have 110 people that have died in 8 months because of it. Of course it's not being used yet. I know you know that. I wasn't meaning that towards you. Okay, so real quick though, just in Anchorage, there's been a total of 511,000 tests done.
And how many we had total positives?
500 positives. Hold on. Give me a second. Won't take that long because it's just Anchorage.
I think there was so there's been more tests done.
22,067 positive tests.
So there's been more tests done than there are residents of the city.
Correct. Well, it's because
almost double.
But that's what I'm saying is that they're not taking this data that they now have and going, okay, let's relook at this and figure out what we know now. Like, that's the thing. It's like I've been on project teams for different things. And granted, it's financial institution stuff. But project teams are project teams are project teams. And at any point, you have to reassess where you're at. Okay? What made sense in the very beginning doesn't always end up making sense 6 months into it.
No.
Okay? Like, the fact that we tried to convert, or we did. We successfully did it. We worked our butts off. We converted our operating system, so where the tellers do all their work, okay? We converted our operating system, our core conversion, our phone system, and our home banking, all within 3 months of each other. It was a hot mess, and we worked our butts off, and we had very long nights. But what I'm getting at is that I remember multiple times, in this, it was like 9-month process, okay, or 10 months. And I remember we got, 5 months in and went, that's not going to work.
Right.
That's not going to work because that's going to work. And people went, crap, dang it, that would have been so cool if that would have worked. I know, let's try it a different way. Well, what if we do it this way? And then it was 7 months in. Ooh, crap, we have a problem. Why do we have a problem? Well, we have a problem because the phone system isn't going to work with the home banking when they're talking about this. Well, crap, you work the problem. They're not doing that. They're just heels in, everyone stay home, shut down the restaurants because people can't have fun, and I don't want to hear anything else. It's driving me nuts.
Well, I think it becomes a thing where they don't want to admit they're wrong. Nope. I mean, literally, they don't want to admit they're wrong because they don't want to be held accountable. They're like you said, they're doubling down on like everything. So, if you're wrong, don't admit you're wrong. Let's just do it worse.
Yep. And that's the worst part about it too, is that, what's going to end up happening is this. I already see the writing on the wall. It's going to be like 5 years from now, okay? And all this data is coming out that will come out of COVID that has nothing to do with the virus. It'll have to do with, suicides, and it'll be having to do with home mortgages that were foreclosed on, all this stuff that happened because of COVID. And they'll say, we were going with the information that we had at the time.
Exactly. And so here's the thing I want to know, and they're not going to show these numbers, but so we've had 500,000 tests. We've got 300,000 residents
in Anchorage.
In Anchorage, we've got 300,000 citizens in Anchorage. I want to know how many people have been retested and how many times they've been retested. I think Chris Constant one time at the assembly said he's been tested 4 times in a week.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. Is he that scared?
Well, and that's another thing too, is I know of, at my work, we have different branches and stuff. You have kids, and by kids, I mean 23-year-olds, but they, are living their life, right? They're going to the bars, they're hanging out with people. And then we're telling them, just like all businesses, are like, if you get exposed, let us know as soon as possible. And so there was one kid that in 4 months got tested 5 different times. Because
I know.
And then because it was in Juneau, he had to quarantine for a week each time because in Juneau,
took a while for the test to come back.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's not like Anchorage where it's like 2 to 4 days. It was Juneau. It took like 5 to 7.
So here's
not working. for a week.
Here's the thing I found out about the tests. So if you test positive and you're in Anchorage and you get your 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever off, okay? So, and I'm guessing this is throughout the state, not just Anchorage, but if you test positive and you get your 2 weeks off and you have a positive test that you can give your employer, you still get paid for those 2 weeks off. And what happens is the employer in turn takes that positive test, sends it into the state or the feds. They pay that person's payroll. And so the employer's not out the money for them not being there at work. So I think what's going on is they're pushing people to test and all this other kind of stuff. And I don't know if there's back channels that we don't know about or what's going on, but think about all these people that have taken 4 and 5 tests. Okay, it's almost like they're wanting those 2 weeks off. But here's the thing: I want to know how many people have tested afterwards, because if they've tested positive and then they turn around and retest it again, supposedly this is what my doctors told me, was once you've tested positive, you're going to test positive for 3 months. I want to know the percentage of the tests that this is important, because if you continually test after you've had it and you can continue to keep testing, you're going to have more positive tests. I want to know how many people have retested after their first positive, because that's a huge, and I'm going to use that shit at the assembly. I guarantee you this next time I'm going to use that at the assembly, because the numbers are skewed. We know they are.
Oh, they are.
We know that they are, but I want to know that number, because if you've tested positive in the past and you've gone through this before, you're going to test positive every time you test for 3 months.
Well, and another thing that happened too is that there was a woman I know whose husband got COVID, and she ended up coming to work, obviously not knowing that her husband had COVID. So obviously they're husband and wife, okay? So they're going to be doing the horizontal mambo, and they're going to be sleeping in the same bed, okay? So she goes to work. Well, then the work finds out that, she let them know, like, hey, my husband has COVID. And they're like, okay, we'll go home, get tested, all that. So 10 days is when it says, like, after from your first symptom, 10 days in the future, that means, you're good to be out.
Yeah, you're not contagious.
Okay? So her test was inconclusive. So they tell her, to be safe, you need to quarantine for 14 days. So if you had COVID, only 10. But if we don't know, 14.
Because that makes sense.
I'm like, they were just making shit up.
Well, I mean, if the city really cared about where somebody caught stuff at, and you're volunteering the information on where you've been, who you've been around, and everything else, don't you think that they'd want that information so they can let other people know?
Because they really don't give a shit.
No, they don't.
It's like, I have a friend who drives city buses. He said they stopped sanitizing that shit like months ago.
I wonder how many doorknobs Dustin Darden has wiped down in the last 2 months. That's what he told us he was doing.
Yeah, I'm like, the municipality of Anchorage stopped cleaning the buses months ago.
When was the last time? When was the last time you gone into a grocery store, Target, Costco, anywhere else, and they had a line of carts that had been wiped down?
Yeah, exactly.
They stopped doing that 6 months ago.
Because all it is about now is the mask.
Yep.
Hand sanitizing and washing your hands and social distancing is all like secondary.
Yeah, we don't need that.
It's all
we got
about
the mask.
The Joanne Fabric $1.99 mask.
I'm really thinking about going to buy a brand new pair of underwear and wearing that into the assembly.
I mean, it's just silly. You can't tell me it's not silly. Like, there's no guideline saying, hey, you need to make sure that you're washing your mask every day.
Yeah, none.
None of it. They don't care. People wear the same mask multiple times. They don't wash it. They leave it. I have 10% battery, so we have to wrap this up. They leave it from their rearview mirror all the time, collecting dust, collecting particles from stuff. They touch it.
Oh yeah.
Because human beings in a mass amount of them aren't used to wearing things on their face that much.
Mm-mm.
Like, people are like, oh, if surgeons can wear it, it's okay. Surgeons, that's their job. They wear it. They're concentrating on their surgery, and they take it off after they're done. They don't wear it around the hospital.
Right.
Like, it's silly. I get so frustrated with it.
Well, I think we have material that we can use at the assembly next time we go.
Yes.
This is like a big brainstorm BS session. So
Yeah.
I think it's obvious with the thing. I hope Felix does more of these. I really do. I was actually I was very surprised that he didn't have any of his other assembly members on with him. He was using the Muni Zoom page. None of the other assembly members were on. I looked through the list and I didn't see anybody on there. So he had no backup, which was perfect for us.
Yeah, I did see a bunch of us were on there. There were a couple people I definitely didn't recognize. So they could have been, lurkers or whatever. Well, and that's the thing that's frustrating too, is that like, I'm not too shy about, putting my name on things. And, I drive a truck that definitely is easily recognized.
Yeah.
And it's like, at the end of the day, I could definitely be added to the cancel culture thing. But I am somewhat, there's really nothing I'm doing wrong with regard to my work. Like,
you're taking part in the public process. That's all it is.
Yeah. So I'm not so concerned. Okay. But I also don't want to get to the point where somebody like shows up at my house, Well, that's the thing that makes me nervous, but
we've made sure you're protected there if that does happen.
Yes.
So
we did.
Anyway, let's get off here. I'm sure people are tired of hearing from us. I don't know. Let's see. Just curious. I want to see how much attention we kept through this. So let me look to see how many people are still actually watching. I'm just curious. So if I click on that, we still got 10 people watching us. Wow,
we're entertaining.
I guess so. Amber Witcher says just to be seen at this main provider for unrelated reasons. Yeah. I think that if the assembly was smart, they would have people start to go in, their regular physicians and get them looked at before they get sick.
Yeah.
Why are they not promoting that?
I know. They're not promoting anything. That's the thing about it that kills me, is it's like, don't promote any kind of healthy, like the chiropractor said, taking your vitamins, being active.
Preemptive.
Like, they're not talking about it.
Yeah.
They're just talking about stay home in your house. That's another thing too that actually was probably a little bit more mentally draining on me than anything else. Like, I thrive on like going on drives and listening to music. That's how I clear my mind out. Just me. And like when I went on my first drive when I left the house after like 2 weeks, I was like a giddy, like a squirrel girl. I was like driving on the road. I'm like, because it was like I felt myself again.
Same thing with me on my first drive to work.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I can't even imagine what it feels like for people that need that kind of attention. Like, I don't even need people. Like, I'm good on my own. But there's people that crave interaction, right? And I couldn't imagine that, being in that mindset of like, I can't leave my house because I might endanger people. And it's just sad that they're forcing that, to having people feel that way. I don't know.
Well, what's crazy. I think I told you this, but they're pushing people to go to the hospitals when they're sick and yada yada yada. So I had to wait. If I would have got Angela in there like 6 hours later, she might have been on a ventilator. It had gotten that pretty drastic for us. Yeah. But whenever I called them and had them come in, well, actually they called me after she arrived. The doctor told me my timing on it was perfect. And, we did everything right. I had an ox meter and all that kind of stuff. And she got in there. She ended up in good hands, thank God. But I do have a friend of mine. His dad is actually in. I've been following the story. Her dad's in, and he's like in his 70s, I think. And he's on a ventilator. They're flipping him over every day, trying to clear his lungs up and stuff. He's not doing great. So I know that this stuff is deadly, but I think that any kind of preemptive action that you can take on your own, getting your doctor's advice, and once you get to a certain point, you got to realize that you can't do it yourself.
Yep. Well, and I think that that's another thing that a lot of people just assume that are drinking
we know
the
it's
Kool-Aid,
real.
if you will,
yeah,
is that we think it's not real. I think it's real. I know it's real. I'm not saying it's not real. I just know that for a fact that if we were to be indoctrinated with so much information about a different virus or a different ailment, whatever you want to call it, homicide or suicide, heroin overdoses, whatever. If we got daily reports, multiple news sources giving us daily reports, and not just daily reports, but restrictions we need to make, and on, and horror stories about the teacher that died when she went to school, but she had lupus and asthma and diabetes, still went to class, but we're supposed to be sorry for her. I'm like, why'd she go to class if she had all that, you know?
Right.
Anyways, but like, if we were indoctrinated with so much information about any other anything, we would feel the same way about it to a certain degree. I do know it's a newer virus, so there's that. But like, I bet people would pay attention a lot more to suicide if we got daily data dumps about how many people committed suicide today and why they committed suicide and what led them to that. And here, go ahead and read their goodbye letter. Like, can you imagine? Like, it's just, it's too much. Like, it's being shoved down our throat. And that's, I think, what it is that kills me.
That's the one thing is we have to, you know, if anybody has anything like that, and I know that it's very, 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 very personal, stuff like that will make a difference. If you have something like that, you know, someone that's, you know, gone that route, and you have something proving that, as difficult and as hard as that would be, that would.
Well, and Amber Witchers does a great job at that, and she gives me like strength. I'm like, if she can talk and be
with
that
what she's
open,
been through,
I'm like, Sarah, get your ass up there, you know.
We'll get you up there. You'll get up there eventually.
Yeah.
I am going to use this whole retesting thing against them. I think that, you know, once you've tested positive and you've gone through it, you should not be allowed to test again for 3 months. I think that is a minimum of what they should be doing. I want to know. We need to push for those answers, because if we don't get those answers, they don't know the answers to it, then, you know, every number that's out there is suspect.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, you know, we're not hearing how many people are asymptomatic. And here's the deal. People are like, that doesn't matter. They can be spreading it to other people.
It's 40% less for asymptomatic patients. The CDC's actually said that.
And not just that, but like, how many people of those 752 were sick?
Yep.
Because that matters to me. It does. If all 752 people were dog sick in bed, that's different than 100 people.
Yeah. Or 10.
Okay? Or 10. Or what? Yeah, exactly. You're like, it matters. And you should want to know that. But no, it's just, anyways, I have 5% left, so we gotta go.
We gotta go. Thanks for tuning in, folks. I think we got 7. We still have 7 people watching. So thanks for putting up with us for 2 hours and 30 minutes. We love you all, and we hope to see you at the assembly and the community council meetings coming up.
And what's happening on Monday? Is something happening tomorrow? When is the thing?
There's a
rolling protest.
There's a rolling protest Monday, and there's a protest outside City Hall, I think, on Tuesday.
Yes, and I have to work for both.
Yeah, I might be able to make the City Hall one. I've got a few meetings Tuesday morning with something I'm working on, and I'm actually going to be meeting with the guy from Little Dipper Diner Tuesday afternoon. So I'm still working on trying to put together garage meetings or a meeting or two with people to strategize and figure out more things we can do.
Yes.
So, you know, the light on the candle's been lit on both ends, and we'll meet it in the middle somewhere.
Yes.
So we'll get off here. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Enjoy talking to you. Sarah, obviously, it's always a great discussion that we have. We need to get Rosa in here. I think Rosa would be a great addition to this. And more people. So for those out there that are talking, if you enjoy this kind of stuff and just BSing and getting to know other people, I do this kind of stuff through Skype. I can put it on live, and I can have as many people as I can get on Skype. So I can have up to like 30 people if I want to. It just makes the screen really small. But if you're interested in doing that, hit me up. I definitely get you on. I enjoy doing this kind of stuff. It's fun. And I think the discussions we have are important. So, Sarah, I will catch you later, and we will see you here probably soon. I think, when's the next assembly meeting? It's next week, right?
The 8th.
The 8th. Okay. We'll make sure that we're there.
Okie dokie.
Other than that,
Bye, guys.
we'll catch y'all later. We love y'all.